Good evening, chaps.
Hi,
Thank you for coming out and braving this. What's it like out there? We've been stuck in here all afternoon.
It's getting a bit chilly though. I thought it was going to be chilly where I was.
Yeah, well, it is Halloween after all. Well, almost. Obviously.
Yes.
Obviously, almost Halloween. Which is why I think it's a good time to talk about your fantastic book that I've been enjoying.
Yes.
I'm pleased to report that you avoid the sort of spangles and space hoppers that these things seem to sometimes go down, don't they? You know, do you remember that series I Love the 70s and all that?
We went out of our way to make sure we weren't like, ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at the set wobbling. Ooh.
Yeah,
We've seen so many shows ago. Do you remember Space Hoppers? Yeah.
Like,
Exactly, yeah.
And tell me how they were made.
Yeah. No, one of the things I loved about it, amongst the many things, is there's a lot of technical aspects gone into it, and also it doesn't just stick to the television, which is the easy one, isn't it? Really, you know,
It's the big one.
it is, and I mean, well, we'll get into the content of the book at the minute. I think it's quite interesting that because this is the first book you've both written.
Yes.
Correct.
If I'm right in
Yes, that's
saying.
right. Yeah.
And I mean, well, why don't you tell me exactly why? Why don't you?
Right,
Yeah.
Another one.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Well, it was basically would have been 4 years ago now.
For getting on for 4 years ago, yeah.
It was one of those, because me and Dave met. I've been working there for 21 years in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I've been buying
Yeah.
comics for 21 years. So,
Right,
yeah.
So he's one of those regulars that then becomes a friend of the shop.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was one of those conversations we had in the morning. One day in work, it was completely dead, no customers. For about an hour, it was one of those, oh, do you remember that comic? Oh, do you remember that TV show? And remember what? And it was only at the end of the conversation when we actually started doing a bit of fucking work, but we realised, literally, without exception, every single thing we'd spoken about was either completely inappropriate, racist, sexist, stupidly violent, or horribly bleak, and all directed at children when we were growing up. And I got a bit energised. I was kind of thinking, I need to read about this. I want a book. So went on Amazon when I got home. Nothing there. There are loads of books about growing up in the 70s with space hoppers on the front, as you were saying.
Yeah.
But nothing about the darker side. So my mate the next day in work said, well, you love writing. Well, why don't you write something? And I was like, well, I've never written anything professionally in my life.
Yeah.
It's just a hobby. But then I kind of thought, no, sorry. Went home and made some notes and started. After it was originally going to be one volume covering the 70s and 80s, and I just immediately realised.
Yeah, it bloomed beyond all.
Yeah.
So after it was about a week in when I realised how big this was. Dave,
Yeah.
you've always wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as we said, we were talking about, like, say, films, TV, stuff like that. And he started making a list. And he came in with his book with a list in it. It was a shorter list. And then, well, hang about this. Oh, yeah, but let's put it on the list. And the list grew and grew and grew. And then it grew beyond one book, and it grew beyond the 70s.
Because we're currently, a third of the way
a third of the way
volume
through the
2
80s
about
book,
Right.
the 80s.
Yeah, the part two, the 80s one.
Yeah.
I mean, it is amazing. It's a bloody big tome, isn't it? It just shows you how rich that the 70s are in all this material.
Well, my favourite review said it's the only book this reviewer had ever read that was simultaneously unputdownable and unpickable. Fantastic. I love that.
No, it is quite a daunting challenge, really. And when you pick it up, immediately, what I loved. I love the little inclusion of the Fleetway logo.
Yes.
That obviously takes me right back to Saturday mornings, and Saturday mornings was Buster and Whizzer and Chips for me.
Yeah.
And I'm trying. Was it Thursdays? Was Whoopi?
Yeah,
See, I was a Dandy Beano topper.
Well, I'm a
and
DC Thompson.
Beezer.
That's why I loved your
so.
Ken Reid section in it, because I'm such a big fan of Ken Reid.
Yeah.
And I actually did, because what I did as a kid was, because we were poor, like I know. So we used to go to all these jumble sales, and I used to get, for like 10p and 5p, I used to get all these annuals. And I remember I was well into. Well, Frankie Stein was in Whoopi, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I think it was
Monster
probably
Fun as well.
Monster Fun.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Reg Nixon or something? What was he called? Nixon, Dave Nixon. Anyway, he was the artist drawing Frankie Stein then.
Yeah.
And so we went to a jumble sale one week, and I got this Wham annual 1966, which is an Oddums one, because you mention Oddums in the book, how you're sort of post Oddums. Oddums being a publisher, for anyone listening or watching who hasn't got a clue what I'm on about. But yeah, so I got that annual, and in that was all this lovely, lovely artwork again, and it was Frankie Stein and Faceache and all these Ken Reid things. And Ken Reid did Jonah in the Beano. He was brilliant. And the Creepy Creations stuff, which was from Shiver and Shake, wasn't it? Because I've got a few of them. And as you say, Monster Fun. But yes, I like it when people like that are celebrated who are kind of seems to be semi-forgotten. I mean, Wham was kind of a Leo Baxendale thing. He fell out with the guys at the Beano. He lost the rights to the Bash Street Kids, so he created the Tiddlers, I think they're called, at Canal Street Comprehensive or something. But it was the Bash Street Kids. But that's where Frankie Stein came in, and I think possibly. Sorry if this is boring, but Oddums were bought by Fleetway or IPC, and I think they took the pick of Faceache and Frankie Stein and all these other things. So you remember Monster Fun then?
I was a big fan.
What did it merge? Was it Buster and Monster Fun?
Oh, God,
I think it was, wasn't it?
Because they were constantly merging and remerging.
Because at that time you had Crazy as well, didn't you, with the K?
As well.
And I loved Cheeky, who ended up in Whoopi, because it must have been Whoopi and Crazy at some point.
Yeah.
I always used to hate how they used to pass that off to us. It's like, great news inside, and you'd open up inside. It's like, oh, fuck, what do you mean great news? All your favourite fun chums are going.
Yeah.
And they're going to join
exciting news for all our readers, and you just go, oh. It's like if a doctor's giving you exciting news for all our patients, you'd think, oh shit, I've got cancer.
Half your favourites are dying. Well, if you're a DC Thompson fan, you must remember those pink inserts when a new comic was coming out then. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, if I can say it.
Yeah, there used to be little they'd put a sort of 4 page pink thing in, when a new comic was coming out or something like that. But the free gifts were always a charming thing to behold, weren't they?
Yeah, just stuff they'd found in the back of the warehouse kind of thing. It was like, oh, plastic spider god.
Yeah.
Like sellotape to the front, and you'd literally rip off the cover when you were taking it off.
I think half of my free gifts got taken off me immediately by my mum because she thought I was going to swallow them.
Well, that 2000 AD, favourite comic ever, favourite thing ever, actually, to this day.
A guy died the other day, one of the great artists.
That's scary.
Yeah. I had 2000 ADs, but I came home, my mum had thrown them all out, which I was gutted.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
Yeah. I remember issue 2, the free gift with that was bionic stickers that you would stick onto your arm. So it looked like your arm was see-through.
Was it Mach 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, but one of them you stuck on your eye, over your eye. I swear to God, I put them all on, thinking I was the Mach 1 Bionic Man, thinking I was dog's bollocks. And I was trying to get this one from my eye, and my eyelid was coming out to here. And my mum went mental. She had to get she was going to write a letter to the editor and everything.
My mum must have heard the story.
Well, I found out the editor of 2000 AD through the golden period. He wrote a book about his time there and found out that genuinely they were bombarded with letters from mum and me fucking kids' eye nearly. So he never did that again.
Well, they're scarred for life, literally, almost, weren't you?
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a great title and very and very descriptive about what's within. What was I thinking then when you were saying that about bloody 2000 AD? Well, that was a nice thing I noticed in here as well. But that's so it's on camera. Mentioning the Doctor Who strips as well. Because because you got a sort of crossover there, haven't you, with a few things? Wasn't Absalom Dark in 2000 AD, and he was a Dalek killer?
Yeah.
Because I used to love that Dalek strip they used to reprint on the back of Doctor Who Monthly, did.
Oh yeah, the Terry Nation stuff.
Fantastic. And you mentioned Dave Gibbons in there as well, don't you?
Yeah, the original artist.
Who was that one? Do you remember that one? Am I right in... I'm digging in my own head here, and sorry if you cover it in the book. I haven't read it as well as I should. I skimmed through a lot of it.
Oh, it's going to take you months, that one.
Well, that's one of those, it's like Mark was saying before, it's one of those books you just keep dipping into. It's the gift that keeps on giving, really, isn't it?
Well, some people read it cover to cover, don't they? And other people just dip, so whatever suits you, really.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing about a book that's so comprehensive. What was the one... Was it Polly the Glot was one of the ones in Doctor Who?
Yeah, that was a
Was that the silly one where they were all drawn dead strange and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to love that. And the Stockbridge Horror was one.
Yes. Was that Davison's?
That was...
Davison.
Yeah, it started with Davison,
Yeah.
That was proper little folk horror one.
Yeah, it was great. Well, that's what immediately I was thinking of. And with Sapphire and Steel being on the front as well, I mean... And you can tell me if this is... not bullshit, but what do they call it? Apocryphal, maybe. I might have the right word there. My memory of Sapphire and Steel, which I'm sure most memories most people's memory is the sort of the World War One soldier whistling and them stuck in the train station.
The second one, it's the second one, yeah.
So am I right in saying that is because when ITV were on strike, they showed that one an awful lot on consecutive nights because they had nothing else to show?
No,
it'd be a
because
bit
the
early.
strike just blacked the entire station for about 6 months.
I think when ITV came back, that was late 79, wasn't it? It was like October 79 it came back after it's been off.
The Sapphires that we were talking about, it was in Stockton. It was it's such a languid television show.
Yeah.
It just nothing happened for 10 minutes at a time. They'd be walking around like an antique shop and they're going just waiting for anything to happen. But I think that's probably an apocryphal story.
Well, I did wonder if that was my my memory.
Not that I know of, no.
No, I'm probably wrong.
Well, was it a bit earlier than that? Was it 78? Was it? Was Sapphire and Steel 77, 78?
Yeah, I think it was
78. Because the strike was 79. It was from August 79 till October 79.
Well, the strike sort of brings to mind memories like evenings like tonight, doesn't it? Where it was dark and it was cold and
I mean, cuts and
the power cuts. Yeah, I mean that's another thing that I'd forgotten about really until looking through that. It was like that whole period of. I remember we used to have the fire going, and like clothes horses going around covered in clothes, so my mum could make the dough rise because we had to bake bread because they were on strike, weren't they? The bakers were on strike, and everything seemed to be.
We had one of those little Calagas heaters, on wheels. Those things you put a big bottle in the back, and we'd all be huddled around this Calagas heater, both for light and heat. I remember that very clearly.
Wasn't that one of the ones on the dial that had miser rate?
Yeah,
I never knew what that meant when it was a kid.
It just didn't use very much gas, I suppose.
So I remember huddling around that. And
they had a great smell to them as well.
Yeah, it's very evocative, isn't it? It's,
it
takes you back.
Yeah, that's sort of there must be a big shared experience for all of us. That sort of the strikes and the dark nights.
I think it was as a child, that's one of the first times you got the impression that things from outside the home could affect you.
Yeah,
in a way, because something you didn't really understand.
Yeah,
was casting you into darkness. I think that was probably a scarred for life moment.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, I suppose you did become more aware that you were at the mercy of some external force.
Yeah, really. I mean, my dad, obviously, when the 3-day week came in, like in the early 70s, I remember my dad being home a lot, and and obviously my mum and dad looking worried about the financial situation and the way the country was going. So
well, I mean, in the book that you cover so many of these things that really are lodged in the memories of not just me, but I suppose everyone of our generation who cared to be plonked in front of the telly. I mean, I remember, I think it was an armchair thriller, The Nuns with No Faces.
Oh yes, everybody remembers that one. Yeah,
that was fucking. I literally remember leaping in the air when that was on.
Quiet as a Nun.
Quiet as a Nun. That's it.
Oh, what was the?
Jemima Shaw, was it? Was it Jemima Shaw?
The Ruth Rendell Mysteries, was it?
It was Jemima Shaw. No, it was Lady Antonia Fraser wrote it. It was, I think it's Jemima Shaw. I think.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
but it's the end of one of the episodes. She's coming up like a staircase into the attic, and this faceless nun's in a rocking chair.
Fuck off! Yeah.
I know.
Even now.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's genuinely horrible.
And they've got. You see, my memory of that is watching it at lunchtime. That is my memory of it. That Crown Court slot?
Yes.
When you weren't in school. And
you're off sick.
Yeah. Right,
That's the kind of thing they probably would have bunged on it. They didn't care back then.
That's my memory of it, that it was in that Crown Court slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could be wrong though, because I mean, obviously, I'm wrong about the Sapphire and Steel. So,
but they did tend to show things again in the day, and you look at the things they were showing in the day, and you think, well, that's not really appropriate for the day,
Oh no! Well, I remember the Love Thy Neighbour film being on one Friday afternoon when I was off school. I know, and you go into Love Thy Neighbour in quite some detail there. Really, it's a strange thing because when I was teaching at Liverpool Community College, when I was teaching performing arts there. I can't think what the module was, but it was something. It was historical context, I think, was the name of the module. And so I showed them Love Thy Neighbour to see what millennials would make of this. The much maligned millennials who are sort of they're not allowed to clap anymore and they're scared of their own shadow and all that. And I put Love Thy Neighbour on thinking, oh, well, here we go, because it was quite a sort of multiracial, multicultural class. I thought, I'm either going to get hounded out of the college here or, we are actually going to examine what this module, historical context, means.
Yeah.
And they pissed themselves at it.
Seriously?
Yeah.
They actually found it...
Oh, they found it hilarious.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I've got a theory about Love Thy Neighbour that if you think about it, Eddie's always done down by Bill the next door door neighbour,
Yeah.
and both of them are always done down by their wives.
Exactly.
The wives
So
are
in
the heroes.
exactly, so in a way, it's the most progressive show of the
Yeah.
70s because
Yeah.
Well, I make the point in the book actually that this is one of the things we wanted to do, wasn't it? It's like the clip shows always go, God, wasn't everyone awful and racist back then? I was like,
Yeah.
actually, no, we weren't. We were just naive.
Yeah.
And it was trying to tackle racism. It was just, you always make the point.
Yeah,
Dave.
they were trying to do their best with racism to tackle it, but they weren't good enough writers to do it.
Wasn't it Vince Driver?
Vince
Powell
and
Harry Driver.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
that's right.
yes.
Yeah.
They were just very clumsy and it was
they
well
were-
done, but it was
yeah.
just,
The heart was in the right place, you see. Whereas a lot of shows, you see a lot of those clip shows go, oh, isn't that racist? And that was it. That's the level. That's the end of it.
Yeah, one of the things we wanted to do is go, well, yeah, it is, but
Yeah, context.
I'm more interested in finding out
Yeah.
why the nation watched it and laughed and they
Yeah.
were racist.
Yeah.
My mum wasn't racist,
Yeah.
she loved it. But I think it's just that kind of naivety. It's the worst thing that came out of it was learning those words because kids are bastards. They
Yeah.
just are. And
Yeah.
I'd go into school, they'd take the piss out of me and I'd go, well, listen here. And it's
Yeah.
all the words that I learned
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah.
And I think, but no, I don't think we were terrible people at all. We just...
Well, I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Jack Smethurst and Rudolph Walker both defend it, don't they, when they're
Yeah.
interviewed? You know, from what I've
well,
seen.
yeah. I mean, there's a scene in the George and Mildred movie. I don't know.
Oh, that's horrible, that bit at the end, isn't it? Where George is going, hey, now you call him this, and I beg your pardon, we're great friends.
Yes,
Or
yeah,
something
exactly.
like that,
So the point
isn't
is they
it?
defend each other, don't
Yeah,
they? That's the
yeah,
point.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing, 'cause
yeah.
it was like having to watch several episodes of Love Thy Neighbour. After about the fifth one, you kind of go, right, I'm kind of getting used to the racism to the point where I can analyse it.
Yeah.
I'm more bothered by the fact that it's shit because I thought it was awful.
It is. I mean, is it an LWT comedy?
Ooh, is it?
Ooh, I don't.
I think it is
I'm
an
trying to think of
I'm
the.
trying to think of the opening.
Yeah, I think it.
So it's got that sort of mind your language on the buses feel
Yes,
to it, really,
yeah.
hasn't it?
Yeah.
On the buses, which you cover as well, which was the two Ronalds, wasn't it? Wolf and Chesney,
Yes.
who wrote that.
Yeah.
Now, on the buses, I fucking love. I unashamedly nail my colours to the
I
mast.
enjoy
I
it.
adore it. Well, I remember, being, because when I was growing up, they'd show the films every summer, as they still do, and they still should. And it just got me so into buses to the point where I sort of still collect toy buses. And that, But I remember coming home on the bus from school one day, and I wrote to what were they then? Merseyside Transport, were they, with
Yeah,
the
the
little
little weird
yes, like a roundabout in the middle. And I wrote to them to say blah blah, and they sent me all this Barney the bus shit, because I wanted to be a bus driver when I grow up. I feel like I'm trying to think. Do you remember in 7 Up when I want to be a jockey when I grow up? Yeah, I want to be a jockey. Well, that was me with a bus driver. Like, anyway, so I was coming back on the bus, and I'm like, ooh, I'm loving this. I'm on a Leyland Atlantean, because I knew all the names of the buses and stuff. And I said to the bus driver, I was like, I said, I can't wait. I want to be a bus driver when I grow up. And he's sort of like, I thought you looked soft. So that's sort of, but with Jack and Stan, they were having such fun. You were just like, this is fucking great.
I think once you'd accept that Stan Butler stands a chance with the Clippies, I think you've got that's a bit of a leap, to be honest.
Wasn't he about 53?
He was
when
50, he was
begun?
50 odd, yeah. He was in his
The
50.
youngest one was Blakey.
I know, yeah.
That's mad.
I started
Yeah.
feeling sorry for Blakey.
Oh, yeah.
He's just doing his job.
Well, Blakey, Stephen Lewis, and Jack. Well, who played Jack? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Bob
Grant.
Bob Grant, yeah.
So both Bob Grant and Stephen Lewis came through John Littlewood's theatre workshop, didn't they? They came out of all of that, which is when you see Sparrows Can't Sing, which Stephen Lewis wrote. You're just like, wow, okay, you were at the forefront
Yeah.
of avant-garde theatre in the 60s. Oh, okay. Yeah, Stephen Lewis wrote Sparrows Can't Sing. It's funny, isn't it? It's sort of like if you've worked with somebody, they tend to turn up again. It's like, oh, well, they were all right. They were a laugh, But there was sort of no remnants of that.
That must be a difficult career for them to be so known for something other than what they pioneered.
Yeah.
It must be quite a difficult way to be.
But apparently he took little toy buses everywhere, didn't he, Stephen Lewis? Even till sort of his later years, in case a kid come up with something, it was like, here you go, here's a little toy, and he signed whatever. But on the buses was a fantastic series. I loved that, and they started to repeat them in the late 80s, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because they were going to bring a new series back.
Yes.
If you
they're
remember.
going to update it and modernise it.
Yeah. You couldn't get away with that now.
Again, this is the thing. It's times do change. There's a writer, broadcaster Tim Wellington. There's been several blow-ups on Twitter about stuff like this. There was a Doctor Who one recently, apparently.
Right.
You'll know more than me, the Doctor Who magazine that tells all
Yes,
the
they've brought in a new time team of younger
Oh,
20-somethings who...
millennials.
The millennials, yeah, and they've watched the Towns of Weng Chang and had problems with some of the racial casting.
Oh, I see where they... Oh, okay. Him, Jojo, plenty by and by.
For anyone who doesn't know, this is a Doctor Who story.
Yeah,
It
yes.
was set in kind of Victorian
times,
based on Fu Manchu
Fantastic. Jago and Lightfoot, wasn't
Yes.
it? And-
Amazing, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the kind of, well, I guess you call it yellowing up of white actors.
Yeah.
Apparently they did find quite...
Yes, they found it quite problematic. I mean,
But
they
it-
enjoyed the show, but it was the first time ever where the editorial defended a Doctor Who story against the comments of the people inside the magazine, so it was a bit of a...
Good.
It kind of blew up on Twitter, and
Yeah.
there's Tim Worthington. He's a real good lad. He's great. The best thing I've ever seen. It just sums up all of this in one sentence: is you can't change the past by punching the present. So you
Yeah.
can complain till you're blue in the face, but it's still in the can.
Yeah.
I find it more interesting to analyse why these things are
Yeah.
acceptable,
And
rather
that's-
than going, "Oh, that's terrible." It's like,
And that's
yeah, it
entirely
is, but-
the ethos of the book, of course, isn't it? To look at things in their context and just say, this
Yeah.
is the facts of it,
Yeah.
and how did that happen, and why did we change from that, and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
yeah.
still going on now with Ghost in the Shell. Scarlett Johansson
Yeah.
playing a...
Yeah, that was ridiculous, wasn't
it's a
it?
weird one.
It's sort of that whole. I mean, Peter Sellers as Fu Manchu. It's that time.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of a trope of British theatre, really.
I think there's a spectrum of it, isn't there? I mean, at one end you've got curry and chips and things like that,
Yeah.
which you're just a bit
Yeah.
beyond the pale.
He turns up playing that character in a Till Death Us Do Part, doesn't he, Spike Milligan?
It's entirely possible.
But yeah, I mean, what's that line from The Go-Between? The past is a foreign country, they do things differently.
Yeah.
You know. But it still doesn't taint your enjoyment of it and how it sort of shaped the things that you're into now, really, which is a good point. That the
Well,
book
I think
makes.
when you watch something from the 70s in particular, you kind of put a lot of your baggage away, don't you? I mean, you expect the sets to wobble, you expect maybe
Yeah.
a camera occasionally to come into shot. You know, I mean, it's
Yeah.
because it's more like theatre on television rather
Yeah.
than like a very swish well-produced production. You know, it's so you're expecting that, and same goes with the attitudes sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching Father Dear Father. Episode 5, which I love. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's an episode in season 3, I think, where there's this woman's come round to stay because her husband, they've had an argument with her husband, and she's there waiting for her husband to come and get her. And after a while, she says, "He was any sort of man. He'd come here and give me a black eye." I was thinking, but that's in the middle of a very genteel comedy, and that got past any sort of censorship. I was thinking, that's a different time.
I think domestic abuse and rape
Yeah.
were sort of right into the 80s. They were still making jokes. There's a Dave Allen sketch.
Where these crash zoom on it now.
Yeah.
Where he's the attendant at the
The
swimming
pools,
baths.
yes.
Yeah.
And he's a guy I remember probably first exposure to a proper stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
Who just sit there and kind of ramble.
Yeah.
And he was very clever. But
Yeah.
I remember seeing that on one of those clip shows that
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like, wow, Dave Allen. He's basically the lifeguard at the swimming baths.
Yeah.
And she's in distress, so he's kind of, does the old Baywatch thing, saves her. She's kind of all distressed, picks her up, takes her into the cubicle and kind of pokes his head back out and goes, kind of thing.
That's it.
That Benny Hill sketch with the girl tied up.
Refresh my memory.
The one where she's been raped by the the Native Americans, she would say nowadays.
First Nation, you have to get your nomenclature right, I suppose.
Yeah, that one. And then
Twitter
he turns up, doesn't he? And she says, "Oh, I've been raped by them." He says, "It's not your lucky day." He starts to unbuckle his...
Fucking hell! Shit! Jesus.
It is gobsmacking to think that we lived through that.
Yeah, well, we
Sometimes
would. I mean, Dave Allen. I mean, growing up in a very Catholic household where I grew up, Dave Allen was a god.
Yeah.
Even though he hated God, paradoxically. And I always found the sketches were a bit wanting anyway on Dave Allen. You know, I liked the little cast of characters he had, and you know, they were great little actors that he had. Was it Ronnie Allen? He had a little guy with black hair. He was great. You know, no, not Ronnie Allen. He's the guy of Crossroads, whatever his name was. Ron. He was a little fella called Ron. But he had some great little sort of gags in that. But his stuff in the studio was just by far just runaway better. And at the end, he actually did that, didn't he? And he dispensed with the chair and didn't do stand-up.
Yeah.
But tying in with what the book's about, when he used to tell the ghost stories and they put the green light on and he'd sort of, you know... I told one, if you watch the John Did you say you watched the John Reppion?
That was the first one I watched, yeah.
So if you remember, I told the Dave Allen story about... And they were the great ones, because what his dad used to do was tell ghost stories, and that's where he sort of got his ghost story from. But with Dave, it was always a twist in it, really. And I noticed you mentioned... the stories that Tom Baker used to...
those title sequences. That title sequence is horrific.
It's brilliant. I got hold of them a couple of years back. They're only 10 minutes each, aren't
That's right,
they?
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be... I think that the guys doing it nowadays, the League of Gentlemen guys, really, who are at the forefront of all that.
Yeah.
Inside Number 9 and
Yeah.
stuff. That's as close to Amicus, I think, as you get.
Yeah.
Laugh out loud funny, but you kind of go, whoa.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
horrible.
you can tell with those guys that they've absorbed all that stuff in the 70s, and now they're homaging it. You know, they are basically doing that, aren't they? They're doing the things they love.
Yeah, the Christmas special they did a direct Amicus, didn't they? They did 4 sort of portmanteaux, 4 stories. I remember Freddie Jones is in one, it's The Monkey's Bollocks or something like that. Something like that, I can't remember. But the Amicus films were, oh, Jesus. The only one I got a couple of years back, I think it's called Torture Garden.
Yes, I know Torture Garden.
It's totally American, isn't it?
It is, is it Milton Berle, is it?
Yeah.
He's the kind of ringmaster of the circus they're in, or something like that.
It's really different from the rest.
It is. It's not the same as like the later ones, your Vault of Horrors and...
fucking
The
fantastic.
Amicus films used to actually terrify me more than Hammer as a
Absolutely.
kid. And it's because I didn't... You pointed it out.
Yeah.
It's because... Well, yeah.
The set in your neighbourhood.
Yeah.
The set in blocks of flats. I mean, the one I always remember is, I think it's Ian Hendry, the one where he's a motorist who gets burns and he comes back and he doesn't know it. He's dead and he sees his reflection in the glass table, doesn't he?
Yeah, she's blind, isn't she, when he turns up at her flat? Because
so she doesn't...
It's the white Jaguar keeps going through that picket fence. It's a white Daimler. And he keeps going through that bloody fence and there's a spin round and he keeps waking up and is... Which one is that? Is that Vault of Horror?
I think that could be... It's... I don't think it's Vault of Horror. I think it might be Tales from the Crypt, or it might be From Beyond the Grave. I think it's Tales from the Crypt, actually.
It's From Beyond the Grave, I think.
It could be,
because From Beyond the Grave... Oh, hang on, I'm getting all mixed up.
I always get...
It's because they all blend, don't they? That classic...
There's one that starts with Denham Elliott as a writer, and it's a house. The House That Dripped Blood.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking of. So you've got... it's great. With John Pertwee in his third Doctor outfit before he's even... Yeah, so there's the Denham Elliott one, isn't there? There's the Wax Museum with Peter Cushing in, where it's he falls in love with the woman, the waxwork, and Joss Ackland's his mate that turns up.
Yes, I remember that.
There's John Pertwee at the end in the Cape. There's another one in it that I can't bloody remember though.
The one I always love is Tales from the Crypt. I mean, I actually think that first scene, the Joan Collins one, is the most Christmassy thing ever. Right up to the bit where she hits her husband with a poker.
Which one? Because I can never remember by title. I remember, is it the one where they're sitting around the table? Is it the one where they're telling stories on the train? Which one's?
The train
one's Dr. Terror's House of Horrors. The one where they're sitting in there's Ralph Richardson as a monk. That's
or the antique shop.
That's
because that might be the one. The one that scared me the most was David Warner doing the seance in his new flat.
Oh, fucking hell.
It's why I
the mirror.
Yes.
The guy coming up in the mirror.
I hate looking at big mirrors. And I realised recently, because I put it on Twitter, it's because of that fucking film.
Yeah.
Because I've got a full-length mirror.
I think I'm the same, waiting for it to mist over.
Isn't it Jack the Ripper? Isn't it Jack the Ripper? Something in the mirror.
He's somewhat like that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that sort of shit rip-off one that I like anyway? Tales That Witness Madness.
Funny enough, I bought the Blu-ray of that the other week and I haven't watched it yet.
I've got my VHS of it from years. When you watch the Uncle Albert one at the beginning, right, because he's got this tandem and it's sort of the clock strikes midnight and the sorry, it's a penny farthing, and this penny farthing, the front wheel starts spinning, and then Uncle Albert's in a painting behind it. I could be wrong about that bit, but Uncle Albert's certainly in a painting, and when he's killing the woman for Uncle Albert's, killing whoever it is so he can get blood, so Uncle Albert in the painting can become flesh again. The painting on Uncle Albert goes from these facial expressions where it's like, he's like, and he's like watching it approvingly, but they're like, it's not moving, it's just like a different fucking crazy when you see that one. And that's the one that the guy who falls in love with the log, Michael Jaston falls in love with a log. He leaves Joan Collins for a log. The damned fool. But he falls in love with the log. So you'll enjoy that one.
Some of those are horrible. I mean, the one I really liked, the Amicus one I really liked, was the one with Peter Cushing, where he's the guy across the road who...
Oh, aye.
And he comes back...
And he fixes all the kids' bikes.
And then they report him for being a paedophile. And then he kills himself.
In the letter.
Yeah. And then he comes
It's a
back.
Valentine's card.
It
isn't
is, yeah. He comes back as an eyeless corpse.
Oh, it's horrible.
It is. It's one of the best makeup jobs. It's in Tales from the Crypt, I think. It's one of the later ones. Tales from the
Yeah,
Crypt.
it's something like that.
Yeah, and it's the makeup's really good on the zombie Peter Cushing, and then he rips the guy's heart out.
That's right, and puts it in a Valentine's. This is for someone with no heart, and he opens them the beating hearts in it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's fantastic.
I love the one with Donald Pleasance and his daughter and Ian Bannon, where he's selling matches. The old soldier.
Is that the one with Diana Dawes as the mother? Is that am I thinking
She
right?
could be.
It's the one where you think it's the kid's wish, isn't it? That he's doing.
Yeah.
It's not the. It's the wife wants to get away from the husband or something like that, or the husband wants to get away from the
He
wife.
marries off Ian Bannon to his daughter.
Yes.
And then he goes round, as you say, like a block of flats. It
Yes,
is like,
yeah.
it's sort of familiar territory. And the bit that always sticks in my head is the wedding cake. Do you remember that?
I vaguely.
I better shut up because I'll spoil it for you. But that's the sort of the end of it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get that sort of late entry into it, don't you? The Monster Club, which you probably...
Oh, yeah.
It's not in that, obviously, because it's the 80s.
Yeah.
Which has got...
B.A.
B.A.
Robertson singing the song.
Monsters Rule Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just a sucker for your love and all this
Bizarre
shit.
animated strip
Yeah.
scene as well. Oh, taking off her flesh.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the shadow, yeah.
But that's again because I remember the club scenes being laughable almost when I was
Yeah,
a
the
kid.
rubber masks.
But the stories themselves.
Oh, yeah, the shadmock.
the ghoul one, the one with
Yeah, the whistle.
Horrible.
yeah.
Yeah, it's horrible, that
That
one.
the one we see the bride with the skin dripping.
That's that one because he whistles.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's sort of
Is the
burnt.
Monster Club the one with the restaurant full of vampires and they've got a tap in there?
I think that's one of the earlier ones. I think.
Okay. Does that put the shit up?
Yes, and I'll tell you, it's the house that dripped blood because it's bloody hell, the brother of the really famous actress. I can't think of his name. Oh, really good looking actor. Anyway, and he turns up to meet her, and they pull. They bring him his soup and his blood.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And he's like, ugh. And he's like, how do you want your clots? And he's like, clots? And then they pull a cord and a big curtain and there's a mirror. And he's the only one reflected in it.
That was good, right?
And so they're like, oh, this frozen stuff's all right, but you can't beat fresh, can you? And he's got the tap in his name. Yeah, I think that's in that.
And the Terry Thomas one where he ends up in bottles.
Oh, God, there we are. Is it Henry? All neat and tidy. She's putting it away. And the odds and ends has got a cock in it.
I never noticed that.
Oh, yeah. I've watched that so many times. The one that really used to get me was the one that, because they showed it an awful lot, was Asylum. With Robert Powell.
Yes. That's the one with the doll, isn't it? The killer doll thing.
Yeah, the little robot that Herbert Lom gets to go out of the room. And that starts with he chops up his wife, doesn't he? And chucks the necklace in. It's what's his name out of, what's the Doctor Who Snake Dance, isn't it? Where he's the mad fucking, he's the guy out of all the 50s films.
Oh, right. Okay, right.
Can't think of his, this is the Amnesia Express, isn't it? We're going from one to the other here. Anyway, he chops her up, and she's wrapped in brown paper, where she's breathing, and the brown paper's going in.
Oh yes, it's down in the basement, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's coming back
Put
to
her
me
in
now.
the freezer.
Yeah, she's in the freezer in the basement. Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one as well. Anyway, I can't remember his bastard name.
That's the one where Robert Powell has to decide who's lying or who's telling the truth, isn't it?
Dr. Stark is the doctor, and it's Graham, the Crowman.
Oh,
Great, Jeffrey Belden.
Jeffrey Belden. Yeah.
He's the one who I'm happy to say I actually met because I went to a real. I'm not going to say sad bastards because I was there. Well, no, I am a sad bastard, but I don't want to insult anyone else was there. But they do this sort of. They used to do this cat weasel thing. They probably still do, where you go to Upper Clarendon or whatever it is in the middle of the countryside and go where they filmed Cat Weasel. And anyway, I'll put all these names underneath and people can find it. Richard Todd was the fella in Asylum who was also in Doctor Who. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Kinder, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Is that the one that allegedly Matthew Waterhouse tried to explain how to act to?
That's it.
Yeah, because Adric apparently took Richard Todd aside, who was Richard Todd, a great actor from the 50s, like Dan Buster, stuff like that, whatever, and tried to explain to him how to act on screen, and I don't think he took it too well.
Absolutely. God blimey, crazy. I don't know what the hell I was going on about, but anyway, we're back to Adric, as most things do.
Yes.
I'm hoping that you're covering, and I'm sure you are anyway, the Adric's death.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yes,
Big moment in the 80s.
Wasn't it? I think I read a Doctor Who book years ago that said it was a Doctor Who's Stan Ogden moment.
Yeah.
With no Coronation Street titles.
I remember where I was when I watched it. I mean, one of my mates lived a few blocks down, but his mum and dad ran the local chippy. So we were watching it behind the counter with a few customers who were just kind of, Doctor Who. And that happened. I still remember the titles running with no music, and we were like...
Yeah.
It was just like, it was unbelievable.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, but if it was Doctor Who's Stan Ogden moment, surely you have to have like Nissa fanning his glasses and stuff.
Well,
to cry.
it was the star, the broken star.
Yeah.
It was Earthshock, wasn't it?
Earthshock,
he rubs
yes.
the star into the
Cyberman's chest unicorn's gold. I think one of the things with that is you don't remember now, but the Cyberman hadn't been on for 7 years at that point, and the previous appearance was 7 years after the previous one. They weren't the omnipresent villain of Doctor Who.
That's the point. Yeah, I'd not thought of it like that.
Because it was Invasion in 68, 69, something like that, and then it wasn't until 75 with the Revenge of the Cybermen they came back again, and then again it wasn't until Earthshock they came back again.
Yeah.
Well, those pre-internet days, it's something we feed into a lot of the stuff in the book. It's kind of... There was no way of getting spoilers, so we didn't know the Cyberman was coming back. We didn't know he was dying.
Yeah,
but
quite
also
right.
That thing of... We were talking about it on Sunday, weren't we? No one had a video, so you made damn sure that you were going to watch these things, all of these things. And I think people paid more attention, or at least it seeped into your brain a lot more, because you were thinking, I'll never get to see this again.
Yeah.
So this is why, I think one of the reasons why we remember so many of these things so photographically is because we were kind of...
Because you had to.
Yeah.
And also you go and talk to your mates the next day in school about it, and then...
Joy!
Well, but that would amplify the effect, wouldn't it? Because they'd remember things you didn't.
Yeah,
and they
quite
might
right.
even wrongly remember things that you didn't remember, then it becomes part of your memory as well, this wrong memory.
So you create a composite, don't you, between you all of bits you remember.
Which is when... They call it the Mandela Effect now, isn't it? It's people remember things that never happened.
Yeah, there's some film, isn't there, about Aladdin or something in America.
American comedian that never existed. I was researching that recently, and people go, no, I've seen it. I've seen the film. It never existed.
Oh, and it's not just like 100 people, is it? There's fucking loads of these people who are like, no, it was called whatever it was,
Shazam or something,
yeah. Well, I had one I mentioned to you, didn't I? And then from a Star Trek film in the 80s. And
that's right, yeah.
And he remembers the scene as well, and it's not in the film.
Wow.
It's in Star Trek 6 where after they've assassinated the Klingon Emperor, they beam back to the Enterprise, and a drop of blood drops onto the floor on the shoe.
I swear
and I've seen that scene. I've seen it, and it's not there.
Wow.
Never happened.
Wow. So, yeah, the Mandela Effect. I remember reading that's what this phenomenon's called, really.
Yeah. And plus, like I say, when you see something that's horrific, you add extra horror yourself, don't you?
It's that thing we were talking about, the public information film on Sunday at Stockton. I don't know if you remember.
Was that with Bob, was it?
It was,
yeah. Bob's great, isn't he?
He is fantastic. I had a great time with that.
He's got a book out.
Yeah.
Today, I think.
Yeah. Great book. Yeah, it was the one, I don't remember the kid running along the beach. And it ends on a freeze frame. He's about to put his foot on a
glass
bottle.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, because you don't need to see what happens next, but in your head it's just like blood.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one of those, because I said again on Sunday, I mentioned this, that I remember the end of Seeds of Doom when the Harrison Chase, I think he's called, he falls into a mulching machine.
Yeah.
And I remember the blood and the screams and everything. And that's not there either. It's just I've invented that image in my head.
Wow.
Because he falls into a mulching machine and gets very quietly mulched.
Yeah. Well, that's, as you say, you just fill in the blanks yourself, don't you?
You
know?
You put
that's my anecdote about that public information film, the glass bottle one. As I was telling Bob on Sunday, I had, at the time, when we were little, I had a friend in school called David Kay, and I've never met, little ginger lad, never met a better bullshitter in my entire life. I think everyone knew someone who just, with a straight face, just tell you up is down, black is white, and you go, oh, really? Because he told everyone in school that the parents of that lad in the public information film, we didn't know about sugar glass. So we just thought, how is that? Because his foot's about to go on the jagged glass.
Yeah.
But he told us, no. His foot was cut to ribbons. It was nearly hanging off. And the filmmakers, they gave the parents thousands of pounds compensation and paid for all the hospital bills, but they can't show the footage. And we were like, oh.
And where would he have found this information
exactly.
anyway? You know,
we were 9, so we thought, wow.
Yeah, we had a good bullshitter like that in school. I'd love to remember his name. Yeah, you can be a good bit of bullshit, you know.
Well, when Alien was out, it was in the book. It was like my holy grail. I grew up a massive horror fiend, still am. But getting to see Alien was the holy grail, this 18-rated film, when I was 9. So I used to read newspaper articles about it and magazine articles and look at pictures and go, oh, but the actual Alien itself was embargoed. So you didn't see photos of it until you went to the pictures, I think. But I remember I still hadn't seen it, but I'd had the graphic novel adaptation by that point, so I kind of knew roughly what it was going to look like. But again, David Kay, I remember in the playground, 6 months after it had been out, said his uncle had got hold of a VHS copy of Alien 2, which they'd made, but in that point. And the alien bursts out of Jones the cat and chases Ripley around the pod. And you're like, oh my God. And now you kind of think, well, hang on, no, because surely I would have read something about the sequel to a massive Hollywood film. But you're 9 and you just think, if an adult says something happens, you go, oh, I must have.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's bizarre.
Oh, they're great. You started taking me right back there. So I'm tumbling through the years and remembering those kind of conversations and how excited that you all got.
Yeah.
Because magazine, I remember, like, that was Starburst, and that used to have stuff in it, didn't it?
Well, I've got distinct memories of sitting in school with. You remember those big, oversized Marvel Star Wars comics?
Yeah.
They're huge. They were that big.
The Treasury editions.
The Treasury editions. Yeah, we were sitting all over that, all looking at the pictures, trying to work out what the film would look like if we actually saw it.
Yeah.
And people having, I've got a VHS of that. Proper bullshitters,
Yeah.
It was all E.T. or Star Wars or something like that people had. But I mean, it's a completely different fucking world now, isn't it? You want something now. I mean, even if you don't go down the Netflix route and that, you can just go on YouTube or on BitTorrent or whatever, and you've got it like that. Yeah. And you would walk miles with a videotape, just going, oh, please copy, copy me this, and they wouldn't.
Well, I always remember, off onto books, I always remember going to my local newsagents and getting that wire rack that used to rotate in the newsagents and finding a new Doctor Who Target book I didn't know was out. And,
we had no access to the release schedule or anything.
But now I know when everything's out, and something's lost by doing by knowing too much that you lose something.
Yeah. I remember going to the library and getting the first 2 Doctor Who books I read, and it was The Power of Kroll. Yeah. And I think The Armageddon Factor, and it was just fucking great. When you're reading about this, I can't think which one it was. I think it's The Armageddon Factor, where the ship that they're on is all dirty, and he's describing it all, how grotty this spaceship is, and it's a depth that you can't get to with the show. You had no. Certainly in about 1981 or something, you had no way of ever seeing these gems.
But I remember exactly where it was the day I found 2 Target books the same day. It was Loch Ness Monster and one other I can't remember right now, but that was the most exciting day ever.
Was it the one with the Looney Tunes?
Yes, that is it, yeah. The Scarson coming, Bugs Bunny, yeah.
We used to go to Ashton Market, which was near where I grew up, and on a Saturday, and you'd get the Target novelizations. These were what I suppose you call remaindered books, where they've got a groove cut in them.
Yes,
so they're cheaper. And in amongst all the sort of ones with women in stockings and suspenders and SS uniforms, you'd sort of find fantastic, another Doctor Who novel. And I remember getting the Cave Monsters and stuff like that. Brilliant. And it continues to this day, doesn't it? They're still putting books out, aren't they?
They are all the time, yeah. But it's not the same because I know the release schedules. Again, I can tell you exactly where it was the day I found Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
Right.
In W.H. Smith's.
As a book, you mean? Or
no, as a VHS tape that I did not know existed.
Right.
But that's it. And, it's in my memory. I can tell you exactly where it was in a shop that no longer exists.
Yeah. All the adventure's gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like when you get into a band, someone says, "Oh, this band's great." And it used to be I'd go to a record shop or something, or through the CDs and think, I'd go by how interesting the song titles were, because I didn't know if the album was any good, and I just go download the discography in 5 minutes,
the whole lot,
and I'm an instant expert.
I think we all spent our time in basements of record shops, going through the racks. And
Liverpool was great for it, wasn't it? You had backtracks and you had pro.
There was one I went to in Birkenhead that was in the basement. You'd go down these really steep stairs into this really kind of damp area, and then there'd be rack after rack. And at the time I was into T-Rex, so I was looking through all the other T-Rex. And then one day I found a T-Rex single that had never been released. It was only like a demo copy without the central spindle hole. It was just had the
Wow. Oh, T-Rex are brilliant. I love Tyrannosaurus Rex more though. I
think.
the
late 60s stuff.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant stuff. But with the public information films, one I remember, and this might be another Mandela moment because I've never seen it since, but the one I really remember has an old woman on like some rickety chair or something, and she goes through a fucking
she goes
like a glass cabinet,
I mean,
but it's in slow mo, and you're like,
it just goes.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like,
horrifying, but there's clearly some big burly fucking stunt
in a wig going through this bloody cabinet. Oh
Yeah.
man, they're hilarious. And the one I always remember is the every time my son borrows the car, it comes back stinking like a filthy ashtray. And he tips his fags out of his car in the street, and then somebody leaves a milk bottle on a wall. And then there's a kid goes along with a stick, and the milk bottle breaks. Yeah, that's it. I remember the guy with the milk bottle. So what gives people jobs? Because he doesn't want to put it in a bin. But no, I found the public information film section of it brilliant.
Well, this is one thing. I mean, that's an area that really has seared itself into our generation's heads. But this is the thing. It's something I maintain, that the British film industry has been analysed to death, except for public information films.
Yeah.
And it deserves to be, because a lot of them were genius to distill that much horror into 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Beautifully directed.
I mean, when they get sophisticated, they are miniature movies, aren't they? Like a minute and a half of a miniature movie. It tells an entire story.
Because 1973 seems to be some kind of landmark year for them. The Spirit of Lonely Water came out, the Donald Pleasance. I think that one changed everything, because it's like a Hammer film compressed into a minute. It's got a beginning and a middle and an end, and a bad guy and a good guy, and but everything seemed to be a bit more horrific after that one.
Well, there was a, no pun intended, high watermark with a lot of sort of British stuff around about 73, wasn't there? In 70, the early 70s. I mean, you know, you could spend as long talking as the book is, really, you know. But the early 70s stuff, like, you know, Pender's Fen and the Demons, are Children of the Stones, which is later, I suppose, 78, isn't it?
77.
77.
I think 77.
I can remember that stone appearing in the middle of the road, you know, and being terrified
the
of
old
that.
woman.
Yeah.
I mean, the opening title's that scary on their own. Just that music, that horrible ethereal music.
You did the experiment with one of your students.
I did. I've been showing kids 70s shows and getting reactions from.
Okay.
My favourite reaction was the "Wait till your father gets home." That was my favourite reaction I got. So it just went, Jesus Christ.
Do you remember? For anyone who doesn't remember, I mean, Wait till your father gets home. It was an adult, probably the first adult American cartoon. The Proto Simpsons.
Yeah.
But again, we had that thing of cartoons, they're for kids. Bung it on R11.
But it wasn't. It was written by a guy called Ray Charles, not the dummy guy, and a guy called Harvey Bullock, not the one from Batman.
Right.
And they were comedy writers for adult sitcoms in America, and they wrote a sitcom that was going to be animated, but it wasn't for children. But the BBC clearly had no idea what to do with it. And it went out at 11 in the morning with what I believe is a date rape in the opening title sequence. She goes on a date and she comes back bedraggled.
Yeah, that's right.
A jumper's ripped off and they're dragging on the floor.
Everywhere. There's nearly banging out.
There was a neighbour in that who was damn commies.
Yeah, right.
Didn't he have like a bloody a military hat on?
He looked incredibly like Richard Nixon, I always thought.
His mother, I think it was. Was it mother? There was an old woman with him. It was just insane.
Yeah.
Like an assault rifle.
That was it. He had a bloody he had the rifle. I remember it. I used to love that show though. It was
great.
Yeah.
But you watch it now, and in one of the episodes, they go through like all the porn cinemas. They go past porn cinemas.
Yeah.
And it's all like XXX naked girls, and there's like, you know, sketches.
So that's what it was. It was like a forerunner for The Simpsons and stuff.
I guess in a way, yeah. But no, as I say, I showed them that, and I got a reaction. I showed them Children of the Stones. Just to get back on track from where I was to start with. And yeah, the opening title sequence freaks everybody out. They're just like, what the... It's disturbing. And when you think it was shown at 4:15, it was repeated at 4:15 in the afternoon. So you're coming home from school and you're getting that.
Well, I think a lot of children's dramas, there's not much gap between children's dramas and adult dramas in the 70s.
Quite right, yeah.
They were as intelligent, as well written, as dark.
Yes, absolutely.
Never talked down. In fact, they dragged you up. You had to keep up with them. Do you remember The Feathered Serpent, Mike? Ancient Aztec drama, 4 in the afternoon.
Something is stirred when you said that. Yeah.
Incredible. Written
Cloxytil or whatever he was called.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I can't remember his name. Again, the Amnesia Express carries on. The guy who played Tommy in Planet of the Spiders wrote it.
Oh,
John
Kane.
Kane.
Thank you.
John Kane.
Cup of tea, mister?
Yeah. But, he also wrote Me and My Girl. But it's basically an incredibly complex religious political drama set in ancient Aztec times for children. But Patrick Troughton plays the bad guy, and
Oh,
I
cool.
genuinely believe it's his greatest role, even beyond Doctor Who. He's amazing in it.
Is it
But
still in existence?
It's on DVD.
You
both
can buy it on
seasons.
Oh,
DVD, yeah.
wow,
It's
brilliant.
amazing. But
Oh,
it's
I'll find
basically
that.
about the struggle between... He follows the old god that wanted sacrifice and blood and death, and the Emperor follows the new god that's peaceful, and he's just like, no, you do your thing and we'll just... So it's all about Patrick Troughton manipulating events to kind of bring the old god back. But there is human sacrifice, there are stabbings, there's blood everywhere. At one point there is an actual sacrifice. The camera cuts away as soon as the knife touches skin to reaction shots, and it's a long shot, but you see a heart and a chalice, 4:30 in the afternoon.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They took no prisoners back then with the kids. They just
No.
Well, this is another question we raise, isn't it? Is, did they mean to do this, or was it just they kind of went, this is how we make television? Were they actually trying to scare people? Were they trying to upset children? Or was it just...
I don't know, because you see, you raise a very important question. In terms of being sophisticated when you're a kid, I mean, I remember reading DC Thompson comics and stuff like that. And and my vocabulary really increased thanks to reading DC Thompson comics.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that was probably an objective, wasn't it? But I can remember reading things in the Dandy like the Jocks and the Gerardies, as I'd call it, and it'd be like, no, that's the Geordies, and that's why they fight. Oh, okay. So it really did expand your vocabulary, and in the same way, maybe when they were making telly, the idea was to sort of, prepare children and get them to realise that life isn't sugar-coated and that
absolutely.
stuff lurks around the corner.
I mean, what I do notice, if you do a comparison between children's programs then and now, I mean, now you get things like In the Night Garden where everybody talks nonsense.
Yeah.
With those, they never did that. I mean, apart from Bill and Ben, maybe.
Yeah.
Most of the children's shows, they were talking improper sentences and...
Yeah,
There
it was certainly... I mean, when you think Doctor Who was a children's show, I mean,
Yeah,
it still
yeah,
is, I
yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you mention things like the Talons of Wen Chiang, that was 6 weeks, wasn't it? That
It
you
was,
had
yes.
to... and there was some really interesting stuff in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Historically, and you're like, what the bloody hell's he on about?
Victorian society.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, and the music hall and I mean, Giant Rat notwithstanding, it was really, it was a great education in itself. I remember that really fondly. I can see it. It's an easy target if you're going to pick on a Doctor Who to show it up in it.
Well, I mean, going back to the Giant Rat for a second, I think there's a rule in Doctor Who where every great episode has at least one rubbish monster in it, I think.
Yeah.
Like Caves of Androzani with the milk, that bat thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's appalling. But, the story itself is fantastic.
What was... do you remember Turlo when he's going bonkers over the tractators and he's spitting out
Yes,
of it? The
yeah.
tractators were awful, weren't they?
Well, they couldn't move very fast.
No.
They could just shuffle, couldn't
Yeah,
they? And I think they ran out of air quite quickly, because I remember seeing a convention video of Mark Strickson talking about it. And they used to have air hoses. You have to shove up a tractator to get them to be able to breathe.
Jeez.
So they had not much more mobility, not much sight, and they couldn't breathe.
No. But I mean, it was all great stuff. And the Children of the Stones. All right, it's quite a way, but it's sort of in the same vein as the Quatermass experiment.
Oh, yeah.
It's not it's just Quatermass, isn't it?
The last one, yeah.
The last one's Quatermass.
John
yeah.
Mills
I
one.
think Children of Stones is particularly effective because it's where you go somewhere, you're a stranger to a place, and the people aren't quite right. And they're all happy day, and there's
That's-
something very creepy about a
Little
group mind thing that's
isolated
going on.
community.
Yeah, where they do
Yeah.
things the old ways. And,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's
far
that
from
Wicker Man
I was
thing,
about to
isn't
say
it?
it's
The
not far from the
demons and all
It's
that.
you're in a situation with people who suddenly turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a few examples of that.
You can't even
Yeah.
trust the police in those areas because
Yeah.
they're part
No.
of the problem.
No.
They're all happy day as well. So.
Yeah. Well, that's like in the Monster Club. He's looking for film locations in one of the stories in that, and
Is that the one where they get the food from boxes and
That's
it
it.
turns out to be coffins?
that's it. Where and he manages to, because what he does is he goes off the motorway and goes through some mist and ends up in this place, and it's like, gee, what a great location for a horror movie, and all this. And he goes around, there's fucking nobody there, and it's like, and then it goes dark and they all come out, the zombies, right? Anyway, he manages to get away, doesn't he?
He does.
And he gets to the motorway and he flags down a police
Yes,
Range
yeah.
Rover. Oh, sir, blah, 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 blah. And it's sort of, oh, man, it's Prentice Hancock.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
It's
that's
so,
right, yeah.
great. Prentice Hancock say, I'm all right now. I'm safe, No. Straight off the motorway, and they
back.
take him straight back there, and he goes through the mist, and they're all crowding the cop car.
That was a horrible line, though. We get all our clothes and food from boxes.
Yeah, and it's the coffins in the graveyard.
They're digging them up and eating the corpses.
Yeah,
it's not nice.
Yeah, no, it's not. And it's a fun film, actually, that one, isn't it? You know. But no, I mean, with your Doctor Who moments in there, which is quite fitting with all the spiders and the cobwebs, really. Yeah, Planet of the Spiders, which you sort of touched on there, was... I'm not old enough to remember it going out live, so I only sort of saw it when the VHS came out in probably 93 when they brought everything out, really. But Planet of the Spiders is... I don't know, like all of them, them 6-parters, the Pertwee ones, it sort of lags in the middle. That's my opinion.
There's one episode where there's a chase that lasts the entire episode, and at the end he just vanishes.
Yeah, with the hula-beel and all
utterly pointless. The whole chase was pointless.
Yeah. But there's so many sort of... That was wasn't it... Is it? Am I right? Is it Kismet Delgado who does the...
Yes, it is.
Roger Delgado's wife. A widow, rather. And, that's a lovely scene where... Isn't it a tear, Sarah Jane? Isn't that Planet of the Spiders? I should imagine as a kid that was quite upsetting, really, seeing a doctor die.
Yeah, where there's life, there's...
Yeah.
That's his last line, isn't it? Where there's life, there's...
Well, strangely, that was the first one I ever saw.
Right.
I remember exactly what happened that day. I was 4 years old, and my dad had taken me to Otterspool Promenade playing football, and I remember he was telling me about this TV show that he loved, about a time traveller who went around in a police box and had adventures and fought monsters, and he must have thought, right, he's old enough to watch it now,
right?
Because I'm going to get him into Doctor Who as well. So went home, Doctor Who was on. It was the first part of Planet of the Spiders, and I didn't know what was going on because it was just little, but I was transfixed. And I remember at the end that big fucking house spider appears on it. Looks kind of like the things you've got up here.
Yeah,
the Mandela.
It is a mandala. Yeah.
And that slowly advances towards the Buddhist chanters. And it gave me arachnophobia because years later I asked my mum and dad, and he said, no, it's you fine with spiders. You would not play with them, but you'd be like, oh. And that show, literally, I was one of the thousands.
Yeah.
That got arachnophobia off Doctor Who.
Wow. So I've always been terrified of the bloody things. I hate them. They're horrid. I remember people used to think it was funny to put tomato tops on you. Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, one thing I like about that as well, as you say with the public information films, they were quite succinct in summing up a whole sort of thing in 60 seconds. But you touch on one of my favourite all-time series. Well, you don't touch on that. But you touch on title sequences quite often in the book, which is something I really love. And you go quite in depth with Survivors, which is probably one of my favourite series from the 70s. And I think those title sequences of Survivors are fantastic.
That and The Prisoner, they are the two shows where the title sequence is the pilot episode. There's nothing more to be said.
It tells this whole story of how this has happened, doesn't it? In a minute or
Nowadays, the first episode of The Prisoner, first episode of Survivors would be in the titles. It kind of proves I don't need to know.
Yeah, and it's that lovely sort of... Isn't the sort of like when he drops the flask that's got the contagion in it or whatever, doesn't it spread out and become the sort of map of the world?
It does. It kind of it does.
It's really clever.
Really and then
well
you see him
done.
travelling from country to country, spreading his disease.
That's it.
Because you wrote about this.
I did, yes. Yeah.
But there's this thing that you pointed out because I ended up watching it towards the end of episode 1, I think it is, with the what's her name, the main character, Abby.
Abby Grant.
She's on to the old guy because you think, do you know what? We've got technology. We'll be fine. I survived. And he's like, well, do you know how to make soap?
Yeah.
Well, do you know how to make because we rely on.
In many ways, those primitive people that we refer to are far more sophisticated than Ozzy says, doesn't he? Yeah.
And you make the good life.
It is. It's like a very depressing good life. It's a very depressing good life. Yeah.
And it is the same Volvo, isn't it? That they used in the good life. I always think of Survivors when I'm at that episode when I'm at St Mike's. Here it always reminds me of where she's sort of waiting for Peter Bowles to come back from the city, isn't she, Abby?
Yeah. In the episode where they have to, is it they kills? Basically, they have to. They realise, oh God, we've got to get a legal system and a justice system back in place.
Yeah.
It's a dark.
Yeah. What's his name? Baker, isn't it? He's is it Morley or something he's called?
Oh,
it's the Welsh guy.
Taffin Thomas. Yeah. The kind of Weasley kind of Welsh guy.
Him. Yeah. But there's a guy who Wormley.
Yes, yeah, he's the guy who he's starting his own community, isn't he? He's very officious.
We've got plenty of beef in the freezer and hot water and all this stuff, and they're like, oh, this is lovely. And then she comes out after a bath, Abby Grant. She's like, right, we've got to go.
Is that the one where he's got like a quote of how many kids they have to have and stuff like that?
No, that's I love you, you love me. That's Dennis Lill, isn't it?
Oh yes, that's
we
right.
all love each other here, Jenny.
No, but the thing about the first episode, going back to Peter Bowles, is because you think he's going to be the main character.
I know,
and then he dies. You think, I don't know where I am now with this.
Yeah, that's so fucking good. Killing him off in the first episode.
Yeah,
because again, like Prentice Hancock turning up as something, you think, here's Peter Bowles, I'm all right.
You've got
now.
Expectations, haven't you, at that point, and then
and I suppose in when Jeffrey Palmer dies in the Silurians, it's another thing where you're like, Jeffrey Palmer's dead. Fucking hell, you know,
nobody's safe.
We've had it now.
If Jeffrey's gone,
all these sort of cornerstones of your upbringing.
Yeah.
But no, Survivors was wonderful. There's a great Pat Troughton episode in the first series of that, I think, where he's on the canal boat.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
There's a big tanker of petrol.
It's that period, isn't it? The early 70s. Eco. Doomsday.
Well, I mean, yes, you got your Doomwatch saying the technology's going to kill you. You've got obviously Doctor Who telling you every week that the Earth doomed. Because that's quite environmental, isn't it? In the early 70s with John Pertwee stuff.
Because Bob made the point. The 60s, and we make the point. You make the point in the book. The 60s was the era of James Bond spies were shagging women and they were drinking martini and fighting people in volcanoes, and then you've got Callan in the 70s. It was just
in the 70s. The bill arrived.
I think because if you look, if you look at the 70s, it's like there's no optimism there, is there? It's just like I think once Neil Armstrong put his feet on the moon, I think that was possibly then that's kind of the peak of where you are with your optimism, and it's downhill from there. It's like
sci-fi was the kind of we're going to have jetpacks by 2000. It's going to be shinier. In the 70s, it goes we're going to die.
Yes,
absolutely.
There's going to be rats that eat your kids.
Well, when you bring up the speaking of Edward Woodward, I was really pleased to see 1990.
It's so good.
It's a great series, that, isn't it?
So pathetic as well.
Yeah, it's now.
It is. Yeah, a lot of these things.
I mean, it really is now. You know.
And again, it's not one of those cartoonists. The bad guy, Scarden.
Yeah.
He's not like a moustache twirling villain. He's just a civil servant.
Yeah.
He was just horrible.
Yeah.
He's a Tory. Just a Tory.
But it's like the Guardians as well. I mean, the Guardians is incredibly prophetic. I think you could see that as the political situation, like you say now. It's
well, we have ended up in some really choppy waters, and I'm not really that optimistic about a sort of happy way to get out of them. But I suppose that's not for me to decide, really. But as you say, the way that the 70s manipulated all these, what they call the zeitgeist, I suppose, all these concerns we were beginning to have, and turn them into some really amazing telly and stuff like that. The things flicking through the book was just like, wow, yeah. I mean, what was it? The Changes as well.
Yes, The Changes is fantastic,
amazing.
This stuff. And, in your next one, I suppose you're going to... God, how long are you going to have to spend going on about threads?
That's kind of... I think the last third of the book, it's all about the Cold War. We've got Cold War music, television, board games. Yeah. But Threads is going to be like a bit of a centerpiece, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're getting a number of views on Threads, aren't we? Because I don't think it's such a it's such a big part of your 80s experience that you can't just have one person saying anything about it.
Definitely we'll have 2 or 3 pages about Twitter followers.
Right.
Memories of Threads.
Because it's just it's something else, isn't it? It's just the most frightening thing I've ever seen.
The thing is, you take away, I've always said this, you take away the context, the time it was made, and it's still one of the greatest single dramas I've ever seen.
It was Barry Hines, wasn't it? The guy who wrote Kes.
I mean, the way it plays out with everything happening in the background as well. You're watching like some sort of small domestic drama. But in the background, the TV saying really scary things about the situation. And the radio is when they're in the car.
Well, I remember that there's a funny noise, like a synth noise, Prepare and Survive.
Protect and
Survive.
Really weird radiophonic.
And you hear it on Threads, don't you? It's sort of going on the fucking... And you're like, because one of the scariest things that I recall from that time was a world in action one Monday night that was Protect and Survive. And so you've got Gordon Burns, whoever it is, going, and it's like, and you've got to take the door off and put it against the wall and go. I'm thinking, how the fuck, where's the fucking screwdriver? 4-minute warning, how am I going to get the door
whitewash
off?
your windows in that time.
That's what I'm thinking of. I think it's a BBC one, it's Panorama or something, but they got a family to do what the government had said, to follow the instructions and Protect and Survive.
Well,
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, I don't know how.
Just a placebo.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I had the Protect and Survive booklet. I bought it in Smith's. It was on the bottom shelf next to the People's Friend, on the bottom shelf in the magazine section. And I got it home and was reading it. And the bit where it talks about how you bag up a dead relative and put a toe tag on him and stuff like that.
That's right.
And even then I was thinking, well, who's going to be around with a clipboard afterwards to check who's died?
Well, the old men at the zoo. Do you remember that show?
Yeah.
That's in book 2 as
I'll
well.
bet it
That's a
is.
bizarre one.
Well, they're all living in little fucking. Aren't they all like in the zoo at the end after the nuclear war?
Essentially, yeah, it's like a fight over the animals, and then it becomes this.
Yeah. That's a bizarre series. I must watch that one again.
There's a thing we've got. It's like you're kind of in charge of it, aren't you? We realise there's a thing that happens in the mid-80s. This fucking surreal, big budget dramas. The Edge of Darkness. Deadhead.
Yes.
I can never remember the bastard's name.
Which one?
Oh, the one where you watched it and went, I don't know what.
Oh yes, Dark Side of the Sun. That one.
The
I watched it. Yeah, Maelstrom. Dark Side of the Sun. Maelstrom. There's these Michael J. Birdy in the 70s. He did like the Lotus Eaters and Aphrodite Inheritance and stuff like that. And I think. Basically, in the 70s, he made these programs that were very successful because they showed glamorous locations. And so the BBC was getting like sort of cash from the Greeks to base their series there. So he was given more and more series to do based on the fact he did them in exotic locations. And he starts to go weirder and weirder. And then you get to one in the 80s called The Dark Side of the Sun, where, again, it's one of those things, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who wants to watch it, but it starts with Patrick Mower as a photographer on Rhodes. And by the end of the first episode, he's been killed by the devil.
Wow.
And you're thinking, I don't know where this is going to go now. And where it goes is his wife comes over and this guy, who's actually 700 years old and he's sold his soul to the devil, takes the form of Patrick Mower to have sex with his wife. And then it goes very, very odd. And I said to Steve at the time, I don't know how to write about this because it's just so odd.
I've never heard of it.
It's a very obscure one.
It is. It's really good. I binge watched it. It was so good.
Wow.
But I don't know what I watched.
But there was a spate of them. There was obviously Singing Detective was the big one, but there's 5 or 6 absolutely baffling big. Artemis 81.
Artemis 81.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of about things in it as an angel.
Well, Chucky was fucking mad enough, wasn't it?
Chucky's creepy. If you think about it, Chucky's really creepy. I mean, I've actually written the Chucky piece for the second book, and at the end I go, hang on a minute, what if Chucky's lying to us and it's actually an alien invasion?
Yeah.
So he's controlling the children.
Don't worry, kids.
Yeah. It's that sort of Children of the Damned possession level thing, isn't it?
They all achieve kind of massive powers.
Yes, they do. They have massive powers where they can stop people from talking and they can make people collapse on the floor.
Yeah.
It's a scary amount of power they've given.
Well, it's very similar to those HTV series that you touched on in there, wasn't it? Like Sky. Sky was immediately the one that you think of with that. And Children of the Stones was one. And
King of the Castle is mad. Because he's mad.
That was Bob Baker and Dave Martin again. They wanted to take Alice in Wonderland, fuse it with Franz Kafka, and put it on, I think it was Sundays for Children. And it's unbelievable.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so much in the book that really, shows you the depth of it all. Trying to desperately think of other HTV things. The Ghost of Motley Hall was Granada, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. It might have been.
I think it's a Granada.
Clifton House Mystery.
I wrote about Clifton House Mystery. Yeah, that was HTV.
Well, first look at the photograph in the book. I thought it was Motley Hall because he looks. It's only a couple of years apart, really, isn't it? The Clifton House Mystery I've not seen. Is that the one with the crystal ball or something?
It's the one where these kids move into a house and there's one room that's locked off and it's behind the plaster on the walls and they open it up and inside there's like the ghost of a soldier that's died in these famous Bristol riots in the 18th century, I think, or the 19th century, and it's scary things happening around that.
Fucking hell. I mean, I'm trying to get as much covered as I can, so not giving things really the due care that they need. But as you said in there about Rent-A-Ghost having this sort of the most depressing, morbid premise for a series anyway.
And I think I say in it that you've got to think about it now is that he goes back to see his parents when he's dead and they don't know he's dead. So that gets me thinking, how do they not know he's dead?
Yeah.
They haven't found the corpse. So I make the point that his corpse is at the bottom of the ocean being eaten by the fishes, which is a pretty horrible thought for a kids' programme.
Yeah. That's great, wasn't it? Was it Bob Block who
yes,
did
that's
that?
Right. Yeah.
Is that right?
Now, Well, the first 4 series are just hilarious. They're
they're brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Laugh out
Oh,
loud.
yeah. Oh, and I loved Rent a Ghost when I was a kid.
But I just started watching Pardon My Genie, which is by the same guy. It's like a previous series by the same guy.
Oh, who's in that?
Do you know what? I cannot remember. I know
Gilroy.
Alec Gilroy's in it. Yeah,
That's
he's the
it.
shopper. Yeah,
That's it. Roy Barraclough.
Roy Barraclough,
Yes,
yeah, he's
yes,
in it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's about this guy called Al Haddon or something like that. Al Haddon, who finds a watering can that he polishes and gets this ghost to appear.
Fucking great.
But it's really well done. It's
Yeah.
it's very
Oh,
funny.
yeah. I'd love to see that. I must track that down. There's so many things you want to track down. And my brain's just racing through all the combinations of sort of things like the Phoenix and the Carpet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and all these other
I
things.
think it's fascinating as well that certainly people didn't understand how television was made in the 70s and 80s, even right up to Made in Chelsea, that kind of thing, where they present it as a reality TV show. And I remember watching it going, well, that's a multi-camera setup, so that's not real.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's been... But
Yeah.
that's Alternative 3's the classic.
Alternative 3 is a fact. Have you seen Alternative 3?
That rings a bell, and I've not.
It was a 1977 April Fool's joke by Anglia TV where they got the presenter called Tim Brinton, who was in Anglia, was like a serious presenter. He did like documentaries and stuff like that, and they got him on screen doing this revelation that the brain drain in Britain was actually because all the scientists, the great and the good, were all being taken off to a way station on the moon before they were taken to Mars because the Earth was doomed.
This was done as it
So-
looked like a
It,
documentary.
this was an
it was
April
done- it was
Fool.
a straight
Yeah.
documentary, April Fool, going to be shown on April 1st. Slight problem, there was no space for it on the schedules on April 1st. It actually got shown on June the 20th.
There was no, as you said, your barriers are up, your
Yeah,
guards up on
you're
April
not
Fool's Day.
you're not expecting to be fooled on June the 20th. So there was immediately. I mean, Mary Whitehouse got involved. There were questions in Parliament about the power of the press, to the power of the media, to influence your thoughts. But better than that, there are some people that to this day think it was real.
Wow.
If you go on the internet and look this up, there are various websites you can go to where people are convinced that actually what it was a CIA psyops operation.
Fantastic.
To one or two things. It was either to give you the truth in a way that could be discredited so you think it wasn't the truth, or to break the bad news as a joke. Sort of like, going to your doctors and go, knock, knock. Who's there? Your prognosis. that kind of thing.
It's the biggest. If you Google Alternative 3,
It's-
there'll be
Bec-
hours.
Yeah, because there were guys. I've been on websites where the guys discussing the fact that Donald Rumsfeld watched the future on a quantum visualizer on Mars. Now he's the guy
Wow.
who shot his friend in the face with a gun.
That's it, yeah.
Mistaken for a duck or something. So
Yeah.
he didn't see that bit coming up, did he?
No.
And
No.
Barack Obama was trained to fight aliens in 0G. Wow. And these are people who believe this thing right this minute.
Yeah, I had a mate years ago simultaneously tell me that they never went to the moon, and also about the secret channel when they were on the moon because they saw aliens up there, and it's like, well, you can't
Yeah, you can't
believe
have
those two at the same time.
Yeah.
You
Either
know?
or.
Unfortunately, one of the main guys who's into all these conspiracies, a guy called Jim Keith, sadly was at a rock festival. He fell off a stage and sadly died of his injuries. And they thought
So he was obviously bumped off.
exactly. He was
Yes.
obviously bumped off
Yeah.
by the deep state. #deep state.
Yeah.
Because he knew too much about.
Well, I think one of the best things I've ever seen about that was the Newsbenders. Have you ever seen that? Donald Pleasance,
I've never seen that.
1967. It's a BBC, whatever, little strand. And Donald Pleasance, this executive comes to see him, and he's like, and he shows him the news for the next 5 years, all the riots, all the wars, and this, that, and the other. And he's like, "Oh, we're filming one now," and so it's sort of that paranoia that bubbles under the surface is great to exploit for drama. I'm trying to think. Back then, there was something like that where it was like everything's not as it seems. I suppose it was all a bit like that, really.
I
Wasn't
think
it?
it being made in the 70s really helped it because that grainy sort of footage look, that sort of primitive 70s film, it gave it a veneer of truth.
Yeah.
Because you believe, because you're used to documentaries looking like that.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
it. That was the thing. It was if it was outside, it was on film. If it was inside, it was on video. So outside,
Yeah.
you couldn't
Yeah,
really-
So it had that
And if you
switch,
watch Man About the House, the haircuts on bloody what's his name, Richard O'Sullivan.
Sullivan, yeah.
He'd have her up here and then go in the house and it was down
Yeah.
here. You mentioned Play for Today in there as
Yes,
well,
that's
which
sort
sort of so the fear factor doesn't only come from fantasy and
No.
sci-fi and stuff. Some of that was bloody terrifying.
Yeah.
Because it was grounded in
real.
reality. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was a gritty social dramas quite a lot of the time. They were terrifying, like you
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
going back to what we said earlier on about the the power cuts and stuff like that. There's things out there that can affect you
Yeah.
that are real.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
yeah. That was the power cut thing, and all the other stuff that was going on, the Cold War stuff for definite.
Yes.
The shadow of that looming all the time. One of the worst lines in Threads, I think, is where doesn't he run in the shop and says the Russians have started fighting or something like that? And it's like, and you see, I think the woman pees herself or something. In
Yeah, that's when the bomb goes off, doesn't it? Yeah.
And that's when the bomb goes off over Sheffield. Jesus Christ. But they do credit that with sort of helping us never press the button, really.
Well, didn't Ronald Reagan famously watch Threads
so.
and The Day After Tomorrow, wasn't he?
Was it probably
The
changed his mind?
day after, sorry, yeah.
He said he could never say this in public because he had to portray this strength towards the
Yeah.
Russians. But apparently, behind the scenes, he was like, "I'm never pressing that fucking button." It
Good
put the
man.
shit up him.
Jesus Christ, it's bloody terrifying.
Well, it is. I mean, I live near to the Lever's factory in Port Sunlight, and every morning at 8:45 they have an air raid siren go off to announce the start of the day.
Yeah.
So as a teenager in the 80s, being afraid of like the possible
Yeah.
air raid siren,
Yeah.
that was pretty bad.
We used to have one near us. It was the same Friday for some reason.
Yeah.
They'd do that. And you're like, Jesus Christ almighty, here we go.
I was saying on Sunday as well about Dad's Army, something as cosy and comforting as Dad's Army.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, obviously my mum and dad loved it, and at the end of every episode, where they're kind of advancing the end credits, where they're kind of going through the mist in the forest. When that was happening, my mum would go, "Yeah, Steve, turn it over, any channel," and I didn't know why until years later, when I saw the end of an episode, and it fades into an air raid siren, and I
Right.
my mum couldn't watch it because that was triggering stuff from World War II.
Wow.
She literally, she wouldn't say anything to me, but she'd be like, "Oh yeah, Steve, just get up and change over, will you?" As soon as it finished, she couldn't bear to hear that fucking noise.
Wow.
But I think it's one of our theories as well, isn't it? That World War II feeling was still over people making the programmes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It was. I think the 70s was in some ways therapy for the people making the TV shows, and that they were they were putting their fears. I mean, as I said before, famously the guy who invented the idea of the mastermind chair, he wanted to be like an interrogation, in like a World War II interrogation.
Right.
And like Escape from Colditz, the board game,
Yeah.
swastikas everywhere. And Bob made the point that would be the equivalent of someone making an Iraq Gulf War.
Yeah.
Now, and you're like, what? Yeah, really?
Yeah. You mentioned the Scream In game in there, which
yeah.
was like, nice one. That was in the Whoopee.
Yeah.
That's Screaming, and I got that game once. I don't know where it's gone now, but I had one of them. I bet it's worth a fortune now.
Yeah.
And little ghosts and little plastic
Horror
things.
seem to be infesting everything.
Yeah.
Every single corner. The fact that we've got a food and sweet section.
Yeah, the Dracula lollies.
Yeah.
I thought that they'd banned them because of some chemical in them, but
No, they actually. What happened with it? Because it was black ice.
yeah, you had a black
red
tongue off it,
jelly
didn't you?
to soak
Yeah.
up the blood. It was called Dracula's Secret.
Yeah.
Lolly ice. They did a bit of focus testing, and kids were like, "Oh, it's not nasty enough," so they'd renamed it Dracula's Deadly Secret. To kind of up the horror ante, but it was everywhere. There was tree-born mummies, boiled sweets.
Yes.
And the horrible demonic mummy eyes on the wrapper, and inside it would have 1 of 10 real like screaming skulls and Tutankhamun's tombs. They terrified me.
I forgot about all that. Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. And didn't they do fangs or something? Couldn't you get
Horror bags.
Horror bags, bones and fangs and
ribs,
bones.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
It's just in everything, like that Bally Rectory comic.
God, yeah.
The comic that
Petrified me.
Which one, sorry?
it was. What was it? A special?
It was a comic called Ghost Special.
Yes.
By a tiny little publisher.
Right.
Number 2. Apparently there'd been a number 1 that I'd missed. But it was reprints of comic strips, kind of shiver and shake style comic strips. But it had text pages that were real life ghost stories. And the middle was I think it was a 4 or 6 page article about Bally Rectory, the most haunted house in Britain.
Wow.
And it's even hearing the words Bally Rectory for 10 years. It's a list of 1 to 100 or something of everything that was ever seen or terrifying.
Oh, they were. I mean,
but these were the days when, as we said, the news at 10 would be on. You'd have your strike, your IRA bomb, your advert. First story back after the advert, because there's an episode on YouTube, UFO sighting. reported with utter gravitas.
It wouldn't be the bit at the end, like, and finally with the skateboard and duck section, it would be like in the middle.
It'd be later. This
you got a big section on UFOs in that, haven't you? Yeah, and you're quite right. You remember the unexplained.
Oh,
yes.
Well, I had a phobia for a number of years about spontaneous human combustion, and I'd lie there at night.
That woman's leg in the fireplace. That's the photo, isn't it?
I've got that book in the car right now.
Right. What was that called then? Because I remember that photo of the woman's leg.
That wasn't the Unexplained. It was like issue 2 or 3 of the Unexplained. Yeah. It was. But I used to lie there at night and think my legs felt off.
Yeah, all that shit was terrifying.
Yeah, mine was my legs.
Well, yeah, you'd think you could just burst into flames.
Yeah, but I don't know why I thought it was my legs, because looking at those pictures, your legs are safe.
Oh, yeah, that's
it's
true.
It's the rest of you that's in danger.
It was just that elasticated stocking and the moccasin, wasn't it? You were like, oh, shit, my nan was there. Is it because those elasticated stockings rubbed together too much and cause a spark? I'm not sure,
Ghosts, UFOs, I don't know if it was a holdover from that Age of Aquarius type thing.
Yeah.
Because Von Daniken, Uri Geller and Doris Stokes were exposed several times in the 70s, 80s, and people kind of went, but...
Because James Randi was out there doing his good work, wasn't he, to expose these people for what they were. I mean, because Uri Geller famously had been a magician before he became suddenly psychic.
Doris Stokes would buy the first 3 rows.
Would she really?
So if it all went wrong with her cold casting, she'd go, oh, you... Oh, Janet, and they go, because it was an actress. It was,
Wow.
I just like the idea. They go, oh, I'm getting a tea. It's like as if the ghosts are playing Countdown.
Well, one of the another thing in there, which brings me neatly to it, really, is the ghost stories for Christmas, because
they're fantastic.
Which one is it that starts with the guy, and he's, is it the Treasure of Abbot Thomas, where the guy is a medium, isn't he? And he whacks him on the back and he spits out the little thing he's got, and you have a frog in your throat.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
and he smacks him. Is it the Treasure of Abbot Thomas? I think it is, with Michael, the guy in the Stone Tape. What's his name?
Oh,
Michael.
We're going to have to look these up.
It'll come to us anyway.
Yeah.
But those are just superb. I mean, is it a Warning to the Curious? It starts off with the guy just walking across the field.
Yeah.
Is that Signalman?
Signalman, no, that's the one with Denham Elliott, isn't it? Signalman.
Yes. Yeah. Hello below there. Yeah.
Which,
I love the little sort of the bells going, in the dark signal room. It's just, that's sort of like how you can feel stuff going across the telegraph wires. I think that when Dickens wrote that, there's a suspicion of modern technology in the text of that, really, isn't there? And that that will come to get us.
I guess even then it was kind of do much stuff. He was like, modern.
Well, there was a thing in 1851 or something like that called the Carrington event, where there was some sun activity that sent this massive solar flare to Earth that meant that at 3 a.m. it was like broad daylight, and it hit. It set fire to the telegraph stations, and the wires all caught fire, and these places blew up. Wow. So there must have been a great suspicion of, like there is now. I mean, you're saying there. I'm sorry, I don't know which one of you was that said it, but how you got the telly last and the telephones last after.
Yeah, I got a telephone last. I got a telephone very late.
We got one in 1989. I remember getting one very well, because I used to go to the phone box before that. And when we got one, my nan, 1989, my nan would have been 81, and we had to put a chair by it, and she was like, you'd ring it and pass it to her, and she was like,
I had a video recorder very early, because I nagged my dad for ages to get a video recorder. The first thing I ever recorded was Keeper of Traken.
Oh, right.
Which dated quite early.
That is very early.
For me this is Spinal Tap. 86.
So you recorded it?
I was the last kid in school to get a video.
I had a paper round, and I got $5 a week for my paper round, and to hire a video, a VCR from Granada, was 20 quid a month. So I was like, please, Mum, I will honestly give you the £5 every week. And I did. I got a video, and it came with I think it was a 30-minute tape. And I remember taping. I'm sure I'm right in saying I taped Man About the House from the Channel 4 repeats on a Monday night. And I hadn't sussed out, because I pressed stop when the adverts come on, and then I press record when it come back on, and I'm like watching me Man About the House back, and it's like end of part 1, it's like and then it comes back on, and then I realise you used pause and all this.
Well, one of my strongest memories of the early 80s involves my video recorder, because I went out the night that the last episode of Blake 7 was on.
Right.
Because I was in school, I was in the school bridge team. because I wasn't sporty at all.
School did you go to?
Oh,
I went to Wirral Grammar.
Wow, that's proper.
And they had a bridge team, so I played this card game. We used to play this card game every week with like grannies in the Liverpool building or something. And anyway, I was out this night and I missed the last episode of Blake 7 to recorded it, and the same night I recorded Sweeney 2. And that was a very traumatic tape to watch afterwards.
I bet it was.
You know?
Sweeney too, Christ. I saw your section. I love the Sweeney.
Just one of my favourites.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And when they redid it a couple of years back on Blu-ray, the crispness of the image.
You see, I'm not entirely sure about that, because I think it lost something. It lost that grain. It lost.
Yeah,
I wasn't
too clean.
The one that particularly got me was the Queen's Pawn, I think it is.
Right.
It's the one with Tony Selby.
Yeah.
Where he basically sets him up to be killed.
Yeah.
And he comes out the courtroom, and it's that scene where he comes out the courtroom, and you watch it on the Blu-ray. It's like he's coming out of a block of flats. It doesn't look. It's lost. I think it's lost something by doing that.
I don't know. For me, my favourite, but this will tell you how bad my taste is with the Sweeney. My favourite episode's Visiting Fireman, which is it's a cracking, mad, weird episode. There's all MI5 involved in it. Yeah. When Regan goes to the fire and the helicopter's circling overhead, and it's like that. Go home, Regan. It's like that. Yours, blah blah. And you never find out who that character is in the helicopter. It's just, but that's such an interesting episode.
The one I like is the one with Tim Cook, or the two with Tim Cook. You know, the psychopath.
The music.
Was it? He was called.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. But he's the one where you even used the music on the trailer, didn't you? On the YouTube.
I did.
That music's on the trailer of YouTube for this book on YouTube, because it's
Oh, he's a fucking nutter in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved it. Always loved it, but it got lumped in with that kind of laddish.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Diamond Geezers they brought out DVD. That one you're on about with the nutcase, whatever he was called. In the second one, it was more or less suggesting he was gay, wasn't it?
He was trying to be. He was being gay for a reason. Because that guy was looking after him, he was sheltering him, wasn't he? The uncle. The uncle character was sheltering him.
Oh yeah. It was like Willoughby Goddard or something. Some great big fella, wasn't he?
Yeah. But
That's the thing, is I've read books about the making of the Sweeney, and
I've got Shut It.
That's it.
Yeah, I got that one.
However many 60-odd episodes, and not a single bad episode in the entire thing, because they wouldn't allow it.
No,
they literally wouldn't.
But people do look down on things like is it Messenger of the Gods? You know, the one
with the Mercury, isn't it?
Billy. You
know,
Diana
Dawes again. Yeah,
I fucking love it.
It's great.
I just love it.
There's not a bad
Nick Ivanhoe, the old man. Oh, you got him down. You got him down.
It's the wedding, isn't he? Doesn't he basically ruin the wedding?
Yeah, she goes on the cake, Diana Dawes, doesn't she? Yeah. When she's down at the bloody station giving him all hell. It's fantastic, that one. So that's the one they always pull out of the hat to say it's weak, and I'm like, really?
No. I think that you can do that with any show, can't you? You can pick one scene or one Doctor Who monster or one wobbly set and go, look, it's all rubbish. But it's not. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, Steptoe's last season, I think, it's got 2 stinkers in it by their massive high standards. And one's the 7 Steptoe ride.
You see, I like that. I've got a lot of fondness for that. I like the idea of, was it Albert going down watching all the Bruce Lee films, and then all the pensioners are all...
And then they do Frankie Barra and his team come, they do them all.
I've seen that clip on a clip shop.
Yeah. And I think Seance in a Wet Rag and Bone Yard is another one.
I don't remember that one.
That's Pat Routledge, Mrs. Bucket, and she comes round and does it. But apart from, and that is only by their standards.
That one where the escaped convicts come into
the Desperate Hours.
Yeah, that's so sad, and it's just where they both realise they're trapped, and it's just
brilliant.
It is. Yeah,
it is so good.
Where the 2 younger ones talk, and they realise they're being held by.
And it's like I think Leonard Rossiter says, and it doesn't necessarily. I can't think what he says to Harold. He says something like, "I don't know who's worse off, me or you," or something like that. It was Steptoe's a fantastic example of how to do it right, in it.
But that's an example. They would never do that. They never have a comedy with such a bleak premise.
No.
You just would. A lot of those comedies are just really bleak.
Well, you watch the first one, The Offer, the Comedy Playhouse one, and I think it's round about the 15-minute mark before there's even a chuckle.
Yeah.
Because it just goes on and on and on. And Ray Galton, in an interview once, I heard him say, I don't know if you know the first episode, but he's sort of saying, I'm going, I've had enough, I'm going, I'm leaving you, and all that. And he's like, I'm going, I'm going to take the cart and I'm going. It's like that. Well, you can't take the horse, it's mine, And so he can't take the horse, so he's trying to push this bloody cart out the yard, And Ray Galton said when they were doing it, you know, and they're doing the rehearsal and that, and he said, you know, there's real tears. I said, oh shit, we're working with actors, because they'd worked with Hancock and you know, Harry H. Corbett was the English Marlon Brando, as they called him at the time. But that and Till Death Us Do Part, you know, even though that's sort of got its detractors, I think that's doing it right.
Yeah,
I think we said lots of times though that 70s comedies are based on failed expectation. A lot of like Rigsby and Rising Down.
Yeah.
These are all pathetic people who are never escaping their situations.
they're always trying to get out of this pressure cooker, or this horrible situation they're in, and
Yeah.
And they never do. I mean, Rigsby forever is going to be Miss Jones, isn't he? He's never.
I love to think he's out there now,
Yeah.
still with the boarding house and that. And I think all the best pieces of TV make you think that somewhere this is happening.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But Rising Down was fucking fun. I mean, that was for me, it was Friday nights. I don't know when it went out, actually.
Sure.
And it's one of those things with ITV, though, they chuck stuff around the place.
Well, I think that's it. Your schedule's varied.
vary from region to region.
Yeah, like because when you go to that little box at the bottom of the TV Times page where it said, in Anglia it's doing this, in Taiwanese it's doing this.
Yeah. Do you remember the Looking, how you'd get the
yeah.
sort of truncated TV
the
things?
The kiddie ones.
Yeah. Well, with Looking, and this is jumble sales again, getting old Looking annuals. I probably know more about Love Thy Neighbour from Looking annuals, you know. Meet Nina Baden-Semper. And it's just like, well, all right then, this is great, you know. And that's a sophistication, I think, in kids' literature as well, you know, really with the Looking. But I remember the strips in that. I think you probably had a Love Thy Neighbour strip in the Looking.
I'm sure you probably did.
But you certainly had a Worzel Gummidge one. And with things that terrified me, Worzel Gummidge, when he made his own Scarecrow, Daft Head.
Yes, we talked about that.
That was the slide.
Because
I leapt across the room. I remember it really well.
Because he builds that Scarecrow to be burnt alive in his place. I mean, that's a fairly horrible concept in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's one where he's going to be dug back into the compost heap, Worzel, for whatever reason. And it's like these guys march up who are like white scarecrows with shovels over the shoulder. It's like, fucking hell, man.
Well, if you watch that first episode, it is filmed like a horror film, isn't it?
When he comes alive, it is like an Italian horror
Did you
film.
see that? Someone did. Was it Donny
was me.
Argento? Was that
that
you
was
who did
him.
that?
Half
Well,
around.
good on you. That was wonderful.
Because I was watching it and
Wonderful.
thought, I was actually watching it and thinking, Jesus, this is... So I just had to put the
Well,
goblin...
I must have saw it when you did it.
Yeah, that was me.
I was so pleased with that. It was brilliant.
But do you remember the end of episode 1? But of Worzel Gummidge?
one?
The kids, he's back on his...
Yes.
The kids kind of go, oh, silly old Worzel, this and the other. And because he still didn't trust each other by the end of episode 1, he turns to the camera and goes, we're going to have to sort these kids out.
I see there's going to be a lot of trouble. A
Yeah,
lot of
that's
trouble.
it, yeah.
He's
You
more
know, like-
menacing in the first episode because he doesn't have the eyebrows.
Yeah.
He's just got shaved eyebrows. He doesn't have the
Like I say,
comb.
it's just the way it's filmed. I mean, at the very start, when the father's driving the kids down this country lane, and then the kid wants to pee, so he stops off in the middle of nowhere, and the kid goes...
2 cans of orange fizz.
Yeah. And the kid goes into the field, and then... he just hears a creaking, doesn't he? And then there's the scarecrows there, like that, and then the one hand moves.
Yeah,
that's.
Isn't the dad always off getting pissed?
Oh, he's always going.
Yeah, he's always getting drunk. He's always bunging all his money on the horses.
Yeah, I went to the pub where they filmed the first one where he goes in, he sort of looks round and does of his tash, Mike Berry, and goes in the pub. It's in King's Sombone down in Hampshire, and I went to Stockbridge as well and had a look at the tea shop and everything because I'm a sad bastard, and it was only round the corner. But yeah, Worzel was a really odd series. I mean, James Hill, who produced and directed it, was Born Free and all these other sort of feature films that he'd made. So it was a really good caliber of producer director.
It was Keith Waterhouse.
Willis Hall. I mean, Jesus Christ, what more do you want there? In terms of writers, and it was just, I couldn't see that being made now. I don't think they'd spend that much money.
There's rumours of a reboot.
Well, Mackenzie Crook, isn't it?
Yes.
For me, there was obviously the horrific stuff, Daft Head and that, Handsome Head. But the thing I always got, even as a kid, was the sadness, the tragedy, because it was him and Aunt Sally.
Yeah.
He absolutely adores her.
Yeah.
And she just uses him to get tea, cake, whatever, and then casts him aside at the end of the episode.
Yeah. Well, that handsome head is one of the saddest ones, isn't it? Because it's sort of like, he's like that, I've got the handsome head, and and she still doesn't like me. Well, you need an handsome inside, Worzel. And he's like that, can you make me one of them? And he's like, no, you've got to get one. And then he goes with a bunch of flowers to see Earthy Mangold and other scarecrow woman, and she hacks him to pieces.
It's just like limbs flying everywhere. Wow.
Exactly. I remember just being a kid going.
Wait, doesn't he ask? He asks one of the scarecrows to marry him, and when she says no, he slaps her. It's just like domestic. Yeah, it's like a domestic violence episode of Worzel Gummidge, and there's some very strange religious overtones in that as
there's some. I mean, there was a musical done of it, and Dennis King did the music.
I was about to say, if you listen to some of that, the Crowman one is very religious. If you listen to that one, he's talking to the Crowman like he's God.
Yeah,
it's very
which
strange.
he is. He's the creator.
He's very strange.
But if you read Barbara Youth Todd's original books, they're nothing like that. As I'm sure you know anyway, the idea of the heads was Pertwee's, because the TARDIS could go somewhere every week. So he thought, well, I'll change my head every week. We'll have a different story, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, Southern TV, they used to make some funny little series. I mean, as well, didn't they? I'm sure there's more than Worzel in that canon. I can't think of any.
I was going to say Never Escape Me at the moment. What was Noah's Castle? Was that Southern? I'm not sure what that was.
I think you're right, and also Midnight is a Place was Southern as well. Yeah, so they did have. I don't think they were as prolific as HTV really, because they were the ones, weren't they?
But that's bleak in Motley Hole. Some of the ways they died is really bleak.
Have you seen that one where they go on about the other ghosts and how we don't want to bother them, and they're the really dark, horrible ones? When they touch on them,
one of them's a knight, isn't it?
And he turns up in one of them, doesn't he? Old Gorry, I think he's called.
You wrote about that.
I did, yes.
Yeah, and they're on about, they're scared of the other ghosts.
Yeah,
I think he may have been the ghost that when his armour he fell down the well and drowned
That's
down the well.
It, yes.
That's horrible. It's just
Christ, that's it's going to be involved. Well, it is in volume 2. I don't know if you remember a late 80s BBC one called The Watch House, based on a
No, I don't.
It's got one of the most chilling concepts ever.
Yeah, the concept of the watch house is this watch house is haunted by a ghost who is itself being haunted by a ghost.
Oh wow!
Basically, there's this kid like 100 odd years ago, and he'd seen a guy fleeing from a mob,
right?
And this guy had basically stolen, and he's a soldier. And he said the soldier asked the kid, "Oh, could you save me? Could you save me?" And the kid goes, "I can't save you." And he basically they kill this guy, right? But he said at his last breath, he's like, "I will haunt you." And he haunts this kid throughout his entire life, and then when the kid dies, he haunts the ghost of the kid.
There's no escape.
Horrid.
That's it. Yeah.
And so he enlists the aid of a modern day girl to try and get this fucker off his back.
But you actually, because the modern day girl witnesses the story through the kid's eyes. And she witnesses the guy dying and this is a kid's program, don't forget.
Yeah.
And this guy, he's being haunted by this. Basically, the soldier drives him eventually to his death. And she witnesses his death through his eyes.
Oh my God! No, I'll have to find. Is it still? Can you still see it? Yeah.
The Watch House is gone, isn't it?
Well, it's not gone. You can get it. You can find it on certain well-known sharing sites.
Oh, okay,
it's not on YouTube, but
right. So and what is it? Someone's personal copy that survived, or is the actual?
I think I found it. I think I did find it on YouTube. I did think I found it on YouTube.
Right.
I think it's gone now. The BBC have cracked down recently.
I don't think it was repeated or released.
It's a horrible concept.
Yeah. Well, there's one in the book that you mentioned, Dead of Night, didn't you?
Oh,
yes.
And is it a woman sobbing in that one? The episode where she can hear the woman crying in the loft.
Yeah, there was that one, the Exorcism.
Yeah,
where it was just a 10-minute shot.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name, but just frothing at the mouth.
Yeah,
it was like filmed like an actual play.
Isn't there a potato famine one in that? There's only 3 left, isn't there?
That's the one. It's the middle class family. 2 middle class families having a bit of a Christmas
dinner party
meal
or something.
at Christmas.
Yeah,
and it turns out that I think it's in the loft. The ghosts of a woman and a daughter who died during a potato famine.
Yeah,
it's kind of a feminist thing as well.
Yeah,
but man, that's an intense hour.
Well, they end up stuck in the house and starving to death, don't they?
Yeah, they can't get out. All the windows turn black.
Yeah,
and then it ends with the authorities coming in because they've starved in kind of the same circumstances.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's something up in the loft thing is kind of a good old trope, isn't it, to use with horror? There's so many incidences of that over the years. Don't go into the room. The one you mentioned before, the Clifton House mystery.
This is a door plastered up so you can't go into them. Then why you would do this, I do not know. They chip the plaster away and go through the door, and that releases this ghost back into the house.
Wow.
Because of the Stoll Scarfel, I think there's a I'm in charge of the public information sections in both of them.
Right.
There's a public information film that Dave's going to have to write about because I can't watch the fucking thing. I'm 48 and still can't watch it.
It's the rabies one. I'm going to have to watch a rabies.
The rabies one? What's that one?
When we see the real rabies victim,
yeah,
isn't it?
rabies means death. And it starts with every time I see the plane come in, I'm like, off. But it's basically an old woman trying to smuggle her little pet dog.
Oh, this
through
is
customs,
ringing a bell.
And he opens the bag, the guy goes, but then it's intercut with grainy footage of an African rabies victim thrashing about on a bed. And every time it shows that, it's got this fucking, the kind of psycho knife.
Fucking hell.
When I was a kid, I'd be out there, as soon as I saw the plane land, out the room, because I saw it once. And it seared itself to me head. But Dave's going to have to write about it.
Yes, I'm doing
I
that.
tried to watch it, and I can't watch it. Literally, I'm like... But the power of these things, though.
Yeah. Well, it did its job. You've not tried to smuggle any Yorkshire Terriers back into the country, have you?
And I've gone out of my way not to be bitten by a rabid dog.
No, I don't blame you.
No.
So, is there a website for this, or is it just?
There's a Twitter and a Facebook page, but no web. Oh, there will be.
There will be. I'm doing basically what I did is I purchased the domain name just in case, so nobody else.
Very wise.
Yeah. So it's slow going because I've got a million other things to do, but I've written a few blogs for it. And
Fantastic. I use that WordPress now. I find that's so much quicker.
Yeah, it's through this company called One on One. I think it's called the web hosting thing. But.
Well, it's been such a big success, hasn't it? The book.
It has.
It's just taken us completely by surprise.
I mean, it was published over a year ago, and we're still doing things like this, and people are coming up. I just read the book. It's fantastic, and it's got legs.
Culture festivals and talks. There's a top secret thing that we're still not allowed to talk about.
Absolutely not.
Which is
you better not then.
When the cameras are off, I'll tell you.
Cool. That sounds fantastic.
I'm bursting.
Oh, it's crap, that, isn't it? It's like Tom Baker when he got told he was going to be Doctor Who, wasn't it?
Work,
yeah. And they said, but my heart skidded. Oh, yeah. So you've got to keep your mouth shut then.
Yeah. But like I say, it just goes on, and we keep, like I say, we did a thing on Sunday in Stockton-on-Tees. We've done a thing in.
That blew our minds. It was like 60 people. Some people travelled 2 hours, and it sold out in.
It sold out in 24 hours.
24 hours.
Yeah,
you need a bigger venue then, massively so.
I kind of could have sold the tickets 2-3 times over. Easily 2-3 times over.
Yeah.
I think we might be going back.
I think that's
going
the
back
thing,
up there for things in the future, but
it just means something to the generation.
I think what it is as well is the book has taken the subject seriously. It's like we were saying earlier on. We haven't said that's racist, and that's the end of it. We've gone into it, and we've respected the material in a way. We've not said
you've probably hit a nerve by producing something that gives your audience the benefit of their intelligence.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of that.
No. Well, I think we both said at the time, didn't we? We've written something we'd like to read.
That's the main thing. Yeah. I think the thing as well is, obviously clip shows are visual, so they have to concentrate on television. And we were like, hang on, comics, books, sweets.
Yeah.
There's a whole spectrum of dark, weird stuff from the decade.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't want to do that thing about. I mean, if you watch one of those clip shows now, you get a 20-something comic who clearly was never alive at the time, who sings the theme tune, makes some daft comment about something, and
I think it's another example of how television's just lost its way.
Yeah.
It just has, hasn't it? And it's probably going to be increasingly redundant in the next couple of years.
Yeah, if the surveys are to be believed, it's all YouTube and.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've watched live TV for 3-4 years now. I mean, anything I watch, if I watch it it'll be on iPlayer, or it'll be on catch up. It'll be on Netflix or something like that. I don't think there's a single time I've sat down in front of a live TV show and watched it.
No. I was we had this conversation a couple of weeks back. I think apart from the World Cup, but that's my problem. Apart from that, I don't think I have. I don't bother with anything really. It's just every time I put the telly on, there's nothing for me, and that's really the reason why we decided to do this, because it's like a chat. What I'll watch is people discussing things who I think are interesting and stuff. So if I have interesting people come round, then it'd be something I want to watch. And similarly with doing the theatre thing, it's things I want to watch.
I mean, I feel desperately sad at the state of ITV right now, because of ITV, a lot of the programmes we talk about in the book are ITV classics, and I just look at ITV now and it's reality show.
It's BBC4 for me. I just catch up on BBC4 documentaries.
But even that has sort of gone down the nick since they stopped producing their own, really. They sort of buy things in now. I mean, I think that the worst kept secret in media is probably that the BBC is slowly disintegrating and selling this off and selling that part off and privatising this bit and stuff like that. And, you know, as you're going about the radiophonic workshop in there, when that went, that was, it's a long time ago, but it's been a death by 1,000 cuts, really. Yeah, the costume department going in 1989 or whatever, 'cause the BBC costume department was an incredible, you know, resource, really.
Yeah, I mean, the most exciting thing I've seen recently on the BBC was when they put some more archive stuff on the iPlayer, like Quatermass and stuff like the war game.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Oh, yeah, well, that's the painting your windows white, isn't it, the war game? Yeah. What to do. Preparedness.
I've timed myself out and I can't do it in 4 minutes.
No, there's absolutely no way. I just remember being terrified of that World in Action. If it's something you've not come across, see if you can find it. It probably doesn't exist.
It's if it's one I'm thinking of, there's two in particular that are going to be in book 2. But there's what was it called? There was a panorama, a famous panorama. Actually, it was
the guy had to do it.
The guy that did Threads. There was one that was basically looking at what happened if a bomb dropped on, I think it was St Paul's Cathedral. And it went through the entire radius, but it was completely dispassionate and emotionless. It's like at so many kilometres, this flash floods.
That rings a
so
bell.
Emotionless, you're like, because that was the thing. I remember when I was 12, in a geography lesson in school, classroom full of 12-year-olds. I remember an hour-long lesson. The teacher had a map of Liverpool and the Wirral and drawn rings around it. And the whole lesson was, right, we're going to see what happens when a nuclear bomb drops on Earth. And we were sitting there going, so who lives in Sefton like that? Oh, you're gone.
You're gone.
And we were like, that. I was like, why did you do that? Why? But it was almost like a lot of this stuff was preparing us for the West.
Yeah.
In the 1980s.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely, Bob made the point, he never went a single day without thinking about nuclear war in the first half of the decade.
I
had my first panic attack when I was 13.
Yeah.
Thinking about nuclear war.
Yeah, I think you're quite right there. I think that was probably what started my panic attacks.
I used to imagine a sort of flash of light outside the windows and I was falling asleep.
Yeah.
I used to imagine that.
You'd think all kinds of shit, wouldn't you? You know, and that is, you've just, you just made me remember something. I remember at that time, I was very anxious to always be watching live TV in case it came on, a warning came on.
But then again, you watch the news and like, I don't know, the Afghanistan thing and things like that.
Sandy, what was his name? Do you remember him?
Sandy Gall.
Sandy Gall in the bloody headdress and everything.
Yeah. That's the thing we're putting in one of the shorter pieces in book 2 is news flashes.
Yeah, like remember the SAS going into the Iranian embassy and things like that where you watch these things happening live.
Before 24-hour telly, if it was important enough to interrupt your cartoons, you think...
Yeah, it was scary. The one I remember more than most, madly enough, was Boxing Day. It would have been probably 84 when Ina Sharples died. That was important in our world, you know. But no, I mean, it's obviously struck a chord, what you're doing, which is wonderful. And more intelligent stuff out there. Please, you know. I look for when's it due out, the second one?
Well, originally this was the thing. It was originally going to be for Christmas, but we're not going to.
No, it's about halfway through now. Which, bearing in mind this rate at which we wrote that one is really good going.
Yeah, there's a bit of a team thing. I think it's 5 more writers.
Okay,
doing bits.
This was overwhelming as well. It was like Guardian journalists, BFI journalists asking to be involved, and you were like,
so long as they don't dilute what you do, though.
The ones we've had so far are fantastic.
Wonderful.
They've got it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because like I said, I think we've done I think it's got a different voice than a lot of the books out there, hasn't it? It's more informed, informational. It's
quite personal as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the 80s one even more so.
Yeah, because that's the thing. The first one was from the point of view of, I was born in 1970, so it's little kids, and some of the things we're scared of, we didn't know why. We just were. But the second book, we knew why we were scared. We were teenagers, so it's mass unemployment, it's AIDS, it's rabies, it's nuclear war. That's the big one.
Well, as I said again, the first thing, one of the very first things I wrote for the second book is about going to the tip. Based on there's a couple of World in Actions. There's a World in Action, isn't there?
And a TVI.
A TVI about Birkenhead.
Oh,
there's an entire street.
T Street isn't working. It was called.
The whole street's unemployed.
That is so vivid. Now you've brought that up.
And the World in Action is about Bidston Tip.
Yeah, because me and my dad used to go on a weekend to the tip, Bidston Moss Tip, and down there there'd be unemployed people from Birkenhead who would hover around you, waiting to see what rubbish you dropped, to see if they could pick it up and make some money off it, or they could a piece of wood to board up the house or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were called shite hawks. We called them. So, but there'd be the negotiation in my dad's head where he'd be thinking, can I safely put this in the tip without getting mobbed?
Yeah.
Because it's worth something to people.
Wow.
So I wrote about that, and I sent it to you, didn't I? And then the first thing you said was, "This is a very different thing than we've written before." Because because this is. I mean, I think the 70s is kind of abstract memories, like when you're little, you're afraid of things that couldn't possibly happen. Like but the 80s is definitely these things are happening where we're living through this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I've written a piece for book 2. It's about, it's much lighter but very personal as well, about my obsession with horror, video horror. It was about the period before I had a video. So, and growing up as I am, incredibly squeamish and obsessed with gore and horror, which is weird. Yeah. So I was wanting to find video nasties and all these gory things and kind of watching them going, oh. But I would have to go around to my mate's house to watch, because at the time, this was before the video recordings bill was introduced, so our local newsagent would have I Spit on Your Grave, Cannibal Ferox, next to the slush puppy machine. Wow. Never forget that. So we go around to my mate, the Exterminator. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, guy with the motorcycle helmet and the flamethrower.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking back to the video shot when I grew up.
Yeah, so my mates were watching the Exterminator, and within 10 minutes, it's the most graphically realistic beheading I've ever seen in my life. So I'm like, Jesus. But you don't want to be seen to be a fart in front of your mates because you get ripped in the school. But I couldn't, when he puts him in the, I think it's a mob boss he puts through a meat mincing machine who comes out with sausage. I just went, nah, and turned round because I couldn't handle it. And I got so much shit for about a month after that. But the second part was when I got my video recording, I joined every single video club in the area and went through the horror section A to Z, and there was the video man. What was it? The video butcher?
By me, I had video butchers. It was half butcher's shop, half video shop.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think ours was a bloody fruit and veg shop, and you went through them, them ribbony curtain things, and you were in Wonderland. You probably know. You can probably answer me a question. What was the video nasty that had on the front either a guy in a cockpit or in a car where he was like mummified and dead? Do you not remember that? I always wondered what that was.
What exactly was
the box was like a square in the middle, and it was, in my memory, it's a photograph and not a painting of essentially like, somebody with clothes and their bodies atrophied and mummified and stuff.
I don't know that.
I'd love to know what that is. Now, I don't know if I'm mixing it up with something else, but I remember either he had a flying helmet on or something like that.
That just reminds me of Faces of Death, but that's the one in the electric chair with kind of pads over.
I've never seen that. Is it really a snuff film? Is it?
Or
is it a pretend one?
It's mainly fake. I've never seen it.
No.
I never want to see it.
No, I'm a shit. You think you're squeamish? I'm a shit house. I've never seen out like that.
There's animal stuff that's real. Yeah, but it's risen again because The Guardian did an article about it at the start of the week.
Right.
And it's on YouTube. So
right. Oh, is it?
A mate of mine down in London watched it for the first time and she's thinking of turning vegetarian.
Oh my God, I'm not surprised.
Talking about watching videos, we talked about what the kids are watching nowadays, and they're watching the real stuff.
Oh, they don't give a shit.
No.
Yeah,
they're desensitized.
A couple of kids I was teaching. Well, a kid I was teaching said, "Oh, you should watch this Mexican drug cartel execution video." Oh, me and my girlfriend did an half laugh. I didn't laugh at all, not 1 second.
Fucking hell, man!
It was two guys getting their heads chainsawed off, and the chainsaw kind of seizes up on the second one. It wasn't a good one.
Jesus fucking Christ! I remember the ISIS beheading ones and stuff.
I've never seen that.
I used to get sent them, and I was just like that. Will you fucking leave it out? I am not ever gonna watch this shit. I mean, there's a few times that I've seen things I did. I remember my mate had a book, and it was like really expensive book, and I think it was a Guardian book anyway, and it was like really mad photos, from history.
Yeah.
And one of them was this man and wife from up in somewhere remote during the Russian Revolution, and round the feet were just like dismembered human remains, because they were eating them.
Oh my God.
They were in some. Well, I mean, one of the first things that Stalin did, or whoever, the communists, whatever, is they killed all the farmers, didn't they? They were like, well, you know too much, and we want your land, so you're for the chop. So, it's like, if you kill all the farmers, well, farming ain't easy, is it? As I would swiftly realise if I was put in the...
It's back to survivors again, isn't it?
Exactly.
You couldn't do it.
So people just starved, and they reckon that in that first few years after the revolution in Russia, something like 30 million people just starved to death, because they killed all the farmers. And so around the feet of this like mad old, and I mean fucking scary looking people anyway, were all these bits of bloody bodies and bits of babies and stuff like that. And I was like, no, nice one for that. I didn't ever want to see that.
The worst picture I ever saw accidentally was I was in Waterstones when it was in, you know the Relax Bar now, wherever it is. There used to be Waterstones there, didn't it?
Yes.
And it was a book of some American policeman's murder crime book from the 30s and 40s.
Oh, right.
It was like
people,
shop and
and people being shot point blank range. It was like, the one that got me was a guy who'd stepped into a lift at the same time as the lift cable snapped and he got chopped in half vertically.
Fucking hell.
I was like, that's not what I want to see.
No.
We're opening a book casually.
Absolutely. It was like that one where Jack Ruby does Lee Harvey Oswald, isn't it? And he's in handcuffs and he's leaping because he's shot him in the bloody stomach or whatever. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Well, I suppose we can't go any lower than that. Well, thanks, chaps. I've really enjoyed chatting. I hope to see you again, and I look forward to the second volume.
Yes.
Massively. So there's no website, but we'll put the Twitter links and stuff like that so people can find you. And is it Amazon the primary?
It's lulu.com.
Lulu.com.
If you Google Scarf Life Volume 1, usually the link comes up first.
Right. And I'll put a link underneath, a direct hyperlink if you send me that. Well, cheers, chaps, and happy Halloween.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Cheers.